السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome to Mecca Part 6, Finding the True Mecca. If you have made it this far, you probably understand very well the nature of our world and the deceptions therein. So we talked about the centrality of Mecca. We looked at the candidates for Mecca. We've looked at the magnetic mountain. We've looked at the black stone. We've looked at how the media portrays Mecca subconsciously to us as children, as adults. We've looked at the mythologies around the world that suggest everything to do with our history concerns the Quran. At least that's the only source of information we have at the moment that we can use as a standard to understand who we are, what we are, and where we're going. This installment of this series is going to deal with the straight path. And clearly, if you have been listening into this channel, some of the live streams we've been doing, you'll know very well that the straight path is not a metaphysical concept as such, at least not entirely. It would appear that one of the things that we are guided to is this physical straight path, and it only makes sense that this is something we will see during the hour, as has been documented in the Quran for us from the prior messengers. And the question arises, if Mecca and Al-Masjid Al-Haram, we can kind of see some sort of a emerging picture where and what that might look like, which we'll probably discuss in greater detail in part 7. The question arises, what about Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa? It's all very well to find a candidate for Al-Masjid Al-Haram and Mecca, but Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa very rarely gets the same attention. And I think it's rather very necessary as well to give an idea of what this implies. For example, we're told in chapter 17 by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, exalted is the one who asra by his servant laylan from Al-Masjid Al-Haram towards Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. The one we blessed its surroundings, so we may show him from our signs. Indeed, he is the hearing and the seeing. I've mentioned in some live streams and probably other videos that Al-Masjid Al-Haram is a central focus that you can see as the womb or navel or foundation of the earth from which the earth was spread. I've mentioned before that there are 3 loci or locations or planes of existence, that we are in the middle one. And you'll find this pattern of 3 throughout the creation. In fact, all patterns arise after 3 units can be witnessed. The interesting thing is that this shows that Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa is defined as surroundings, something that surrounds, whereas Al-Masjid Al-Haram refers to something that's localized to a center. And you can simply watch the other parts to get a better understanding of why. Bani Israel are very much the main characters concerning our destiny, concerning the Quran. And I will definitely make another video to elucidate why and who they are. but basically they are tied to this straight path that we're going to be looking at. So let's look at the word aqsa first. Okay? Aqsa refers to the farthest end, or the farthest, or the most extreme, the maximum limits of something. So you get the impression that aqsa really is truly the edge. And we don't see this to be the case in Jerusalem or Al-Quds today, whether it's in Istanbul or in Palestine or wherever other candidates on the map we can find for Jerusalem. It doesn't really qualify as the farthest end from the Creator's perspective. So there's a couple of things related to this, one of which is Al-Quswa. Al-Quswa, and we're going to talk more about this in the next part, inshallah. And this idea of qasiyan. So qasiyan is a descriptor of Al-Aqsa or Aqsa, which is basically the utmost, qasiyan, remote, farthest. So interesting thing is this idea of al-quswa. It's not an adjective, it's a noun. And from chapter 8, verse 42, Allah says, إِذْ أَنْتُمْ بِالْعُدْوَةِ الدُّنْيَا. This is where we live, the dunya. It's not the nearer, it's the nearest. Well, we could say the nearer, but really when people talk about the dunya, as in the hayat ad-dunya, that's very significant. It's not just a random valley in the Arabian Peninsula. But this is contrasted with al-udwati al-quswa. So right off the bat, ad-dunya and al-quswa are companions as concepts. So if the dunya, you can visualize, is our plane of existence, the quswa would be farther, another plane of existence. وَالرَّكْبُ أَسْفَلَ مِنْكُمْ. This word asfala, there's a word that it implies the lowest, as-sufla, al-asfali. So look at this. We have al-dunya, that's in the middle. And if you want to qualify something that's nearest, that would be al-adna. We'll look at that later. Then you have the lowest, as-sufla, or lower, asfala, al-asfali. Then, on the higher end, al-quswa, or qasiyan, or aqsa. You can already imagine what direction aqsa implies, the maximum. Aqsa even seems to have some relation, when they had altered the languages, to this idea of an axis. That's right. Aqsa, axis, maximum. So we can see that if the dunya is in the middle, dani, nearest, near to us, quswa, aqsa, qasiyan, they're higher, they're less attainable. So the first instance we have of this root is in the story of Musa. And he enters a city, the Medina. And we'll have to talk about another time what the Medina is, because it is relevant. But I'll save that for the next part, inshallah. He enters a city at a time of apprehension. It's unclear what the city is, but this city clearly is somewhere that Musa resided, and someone was sent, or someone rather made a voyage towards Musa in the ard. It was a man, And it says, وَجَاءَ رَجُلٌ مِّنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ يَسَعَى. I mentioned this in one of my videos as well, about the companions of the cave, who this could be. I'm not really certain who this person is, but he's a man that comes from أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ يَسَعَى. So you can see that whatever the Medina is, it has a limit, a maximum, a extreme limit there. And he says, O Musa, indeed the mala'a يأتمرون بك ليقتلوك فاخرج إني لك من الناصحين. So he says, that they're conspiring, the chiefs, the mala'a, are conspiring to kill you. He warns him. Interestingly enough, we see the exact same type of language in Surah Yasin. The city of Yasin is never ever elucidated in Islamic tafsirs, but clearly we see that the messengers sound a lot like Musa and Harun, and there's obviously 3 in total, 2 that were sent. I would imagine this is a pattern. It's not just limited to these particular messengers. But I believe that at least from the messengers, Yusuf and Musa were sent to this civilization, and they were strengthened by a 3rd called Harun, the brother of Musa. And they threatened to stone them, and basically they threatened their messengers, saying that, this could be really anyone. I'm just using an example. This people threatened to kill their messengers, and so Allah says, وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى. So the same words are used, but the order is changed. It's not a man coming from أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ يَسْعَى. It's came from أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى. So I'm not sure exactly the details of the story, but it's clear this is the same person. So he goes from one Aqsa to the other Aqsa. That's why the Medina is something very expansive. It's definitely not a city in the Arabian Peninsula, because you'll find that this Medina is mentioned with all kinds of different civilizations, and it is concerning Al-Mada'in, which really city is kind of a misleading idea, because we already have words for city like Al-Qarya. But we'll talk about that another time, inshallah. I just wanted to highlight that Aqsa is referred to in conjunction with Al-Madina. He says, Ya qawm, follow the Mursaleen. This is the story of Maryam in chapter 19, Surah Maryam. And so what happens is Maryam is really astonished that these messengers, the angels, say that it is upon your Lord easy, that he will make your son, your child, this boy, a sign, Isa, for mankind, and a mercy from us. And it was a matter decreed, maqdiyan. So she bore him, meaning carrying him, حملته. Then انتبذت به مكانا قصيا. So this is a place, قصيا, remote, mentioned only once, this adjective. And drove her al-makhad ila jid'i an-nakhla. So this is not just a random tree that grows somewhere in Palestine. This is a particular tree we're going to talk more about. And essentially, when you see this definite article here, an-nakhlati, you can bet that that's something intrinsically profound and significant in the cosmos. Jid'i is in a grammatical form that has no indefinite or definite article. So it's treated significantly different than just a part of a group of something. And an-nakhla is definitive. Al-makhad has the same treatment. So this pains of childbirth, this root is only mentioned once. We're going to look at why this is mentioned. I'm just bringing this forward, what stories are concerned with this makanan qasiyan. So that is the root of aqsa in this format. And we're going to come back to Maryam's story in this idea, which is the very chapter we started with. Al-Isra. Surah Al-Isra, the night journey. The journey that took one night and traveled the expanse of pretty much where humans can dwell. Possible for them to dwell. So I just want to highlight that Isra, this root is connected to Yasri in Surah Al-Fajr, which is a significant concept, the Fajr, the dawn. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَسْرِ, and the night when it passes. It's not necessarily just passing. There is something significant to every single ayah of the Qur'an. It's not just poetic. It cannot be poetic. So I want to highlight that every single time you see this idea, asri, asri, fa asri, asra, what you're talking about is this concept of the isra. It's just the verb form. And the isra is a noun that's formed from this verb. Okay? So the first two instances are describing the story of Nabi Lut. The angel said, O Lot, indeed we are messengers of your Lord, they will never reach you. So set out with your family. They put here set out, but the word is asri. Fa asri. Imagine this as like some type of a journey that really only God can allow. Okay? بِأَهْلِكَ بِقِطِعٍ. قِطِعٍ. That is referring to pieces from al-layl. This is really strange, the way that Allah has worded this to what we're usually familiar with. And this calamity that strikes them, this is what saves Lut and his family, except his wife. It comes during the sobah, the morning. Here we go again. The same type of language, fa'asri. So Allah is consistent with how He treats every story in the Qur'an to give a certain pattern and understanding that's deeper. فَأَسْرِ بِأَهْلِكَ بِقِطِعٍ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. Exactly the same thing. And follow behind them, and let not anyone among you look back and continue on to where you are commanded. Perhaps this event is such a disaster that's pending for this particular story that when they look back, that could mean the difference between life and death for them. So this asri is related to the salvation of Nabi Lut and his daughters. We've already discussed asra. This is used only once in this form, and it says bi'abdihi. A lot of people think this refers to Musa. Other people think it refers to Prophet Muhammad. An abid is a general term for any servant of Allah among His servants. Those could be messengers, prophets, humans and jinn, believers. Those are His servants. Obviously, Musa and the Prophet Muhammad would be included in them, as would Nuh, as would Bani Israel, the believers among them. Asri is the form that's used for Musa. And we had inspired to Moses, travel by night. So again, you know this is a night journey. So it's not just Muhammad making the night journey in the Quran. In Islam, we only are used to the Prophet Muhammad making the night journey. Little do they tell you that Musa made the night journey, as well as Lut. And they were sent to opposite cultures. Qawm Lut, Qawm Fir'aun. In this case, it's Pharaoh. We had inspired to Moses, Asri bi'ibadiyah. So he's not going alone, he's going with the servants of Allah, with my servants. فَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ طَرِيقًا فِي الْبَحْرِ. So this concept of striking is really just creating a space in matter of space, like basically a separation in matter, like a vacuum. That's what he's creating in there. إِضْرِبْ. A daraba is a strike, like when people stop working. It's also creating an example, inserting an example in between, things taken literally. Tariqan is a road, and this road for them is in the sea. The sea. You will not fear being overtaken, nor be afraid. Okay? Moses. Next we see the same idea, worded a little bit differently. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَى أَنْ أَسْرِ بِعِبَادِيَ إِنَّكُمْ مُتَّبِعُونَ. Again, travel by night. That's the night journey. Musa underwent it as well with the servants of the Lord. Then we have فَأَسْرِ. Fa'asri is an unnamed messenger who's described as a noble messenger, a trustworthy messenger. And Allah tells him, after he's sent to Pharaoh and Eli Fir'aun and the people of Fir'aun, set out? No. Travel by night. Take the night journey with my servants. Alayl. Says it right there. Layl, by night. Innakum muttaba'un. It says the same thing to Musa, but I can tell you this person is kind of like the successor to Musa, because, and also to Lut, and I would say the reason why is because Fa'asri is describing Lut's story, Asri is describing Musa's story. This one combines the word for Lut's story and the story of Musa, because this person is sent to Fir'aun. If you read this story, chapter 44, Surah Al-Dukhan, I made a couple of live streams regarding it. You'll see that this person that everyone is familiar, Subhanalladhi asra bi'ibadihi laylan min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa. That is telling you that the Prophet Musa, the Prophet Lut, the Prophet Muhammad, the servants of Allah, Bani Israel, they made this night journey, perhaps numerous times. And it tells you what the destination of the night journey is. It is Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa from Al-Masjid Al-Haram. So we're expanding out the concepts for Al-Masjid Al-Haram to the next level, quite literally. And Maryam also comes into the story, because remember we had said that she was essentially carrying Isa in her stomach. She conceived him, then cried out to her from beneath her. Remember, we talked about how Aqsa, Qasiyan, Maryam went to a place Qasiyan. Al-Quswa, with respect to the dunya, with respect to As-Sufla, the highest, the nearest, the lowest. Well, Miriam went to a Qasiyan place So something cried out to her from beneath her, literally, quite underneath her. Perhaps because the cosmos was underneath her at this point. Do not grieve. Qad, surely your Lord has placed beneath you, again, Sariyan. Sariyan is part of this word for Isra. It's not a normal spring or a stream or anything. It's something that you can imagine is the mechanism for her reaching Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Of course, we just put the two categories together. Qasiyan, makanan qasiyan, a qasiyan place, a maximal place. And Sariyan, the Isra. Okay? And this is beneath her. So I'm just trying to spatially orient you with these verses. And Huzzi is something related to life, stirring of life. When Musa saw his staff come to life. Huzzi ilayki by jidh nakhlati. تساقط عليه رطبا جنيا. Rutaban is not dates. This refers to moisture, dampness. Allah compares this word to dryness. Perhaps because the place where Maryam is so fertile that this is exactly what drops on her. And janiyan, if you want to see this as a ripeness, he's describing something to do with moisture that is ripe, like fruit. Jana. Where is this term used? Well, this term is used in paradise. This is describing where Maryam is. Of course. متكئين على فرش بطائنها وجناه الجنتين دانين. So the jannah of the two jannahs is hanging near. Dani is related to dunya. Okay? And janiyan is what is described upon Maryam. So when you see that Allah tells her, or this voice tells her, perhaps an angel, whatever it is, do not grieve. This is exactly what the people of Jannah are told. They will neither grieve nor will they be afraid, nor will they fear. I propose to you that Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa is an extremely blessed place that you cannot simply go to. You have to be given permission to go there. And I also want to mention that in order for Maryam to go there, she had to go to a Sharqiyan place first. I can highlight that for you. So when we go to Maryam's story, she says, "My Lord, how can I have for me a boy?" This is the story of Zakaria. We'll move forward. Okay, Maryam, she withdraws, and Tabadat retreats from her family. أهلها مكانا شرقيا. Okay, so she has to go in a particular direction first. Then, I guess she takes from other than them hijab. This hijab is mentioned as part of the world. It's a veil or partition or barrier. It has nothing to do with a garment of clothing for women today. And so Allah sends towards her Jibreel, Ruhana, Ruh al-Quddus. And so what happens is He basically tells you will conceive a child. She conceives a child. She goes to the place Qasiyan, like we mentioned. So she goes to the center and then she goes up. Essentially, it's giving you the steps of what happened. Remember we mentioned in Musa's story that he strikes the sea by his staff, a road in the sea. It's anyone's guess what the sea is. But it's interesting that we're told in the Quran very clearly that water comes from above. Al-Bahri. So let's look at where the word road is used first. Tariq. Indeed, those who disbelieve and commit wrong, never will Allah forgive them, nor will He guide them to a road. It says road, not path. Path is used for sirat as well. The very next verse explains, He will not guide them to a road except the road of Jahannam. They will abide there forever, and that for Allah is easy. You understand that this is a separate road because Musa was saved by creating a tariq with Allah's permission. This one damns people for eternity. There's 2 tariqs in the Quran. This is the story where we said he takes the night journey with his servants and strikes for them a dry road in the sea. Okay. And then one more time we see in Surah Al-Ahqaf, قالوا يا قومنا. The people that are speaking here are jinns. They speak in plural. They're a collective. Indeed, we have heard a book sent down from after Musa confirming for us for what was between his hands. It guides toward the truth and towards a road mustaqim. A mustaqim road, a straight road. Not sirat al-mustaqim, it's tariq mustaqim. Doesn't that kind of give you a semblance of what the tariq is? Both the tariq and the sirat are described as mustaqim. This is the haqq, and this is what this book guides you literally to, this location. The story of Musa had to happen somewhere, right? And I want to highlight this as well. So you have tariq as a road. Tariqa, when you add a hat marghuta at the end of a noun, it creates a concept out of the word preceding it. So whereas tariq is a road, literally, that you can walk on, tariqa or tara'iq, plural, is a methodology, a system, kind of like a road that's conceptual, right? So tariqa, we see that Allah says, and certainly we have created above you all 7 systems. Sab'a tara'iq, 7 methodologies. Okay, methods. 7 systems, ways. وَمَا كُنَّا عَنِ الْخَلَقِ غَافِلِينَ. Okay? This is tara'iq. Then we have, indeed among us are the righteous, and among us not so. We were divided ways. This is Surah Al-Jinn. The Jinn civilization are speaking. That from this there are righteous doers of good, and from them other than that. And he's saying the division of tara'iq, methodologies, that's what happened to them. Tara'iq. Okay. Walau, if they had remained straight on the way, Istiqamu, that's related to mustaqim again. Istiqamu upon the tariqati. We would have given them abundant provision. This is talking to the jinn. If they had remained on the tariqah, jinn are capable of flight. And so to them, it's not really necessary to have a physical world. Perhaps on their side, everything's a tariqah. That's just conjecture. But what I really want to highlight is it tells you exactly what jinn consume, and it's water. Asqaynahum, given them to drink water. Ghadaqa. Ghadaqa, I can't recall exactly, but I'm pretty sure this word has to do with fog or mist. And this is essentially what they feed on. And it's interestingly that because they had this schism in the jinn world, Allah gave them a reprimand for that. So then it brings us to this final point that I want to highlight. You have tariq, a road, tariqa, a system or methodology, and then you have a tariq. So clearly this is something that creates the path or is an agent of the path, and this is a star. This is from the cosmos. What is tariq, and what can make you know, possibly understand, conceptualize what is the tariq? It gives you very plainly. It is a najm, a thaqib, the star of the piercing. This piercing is used when it's talking about the shihab. The shihab is something that pursues the defiant devils that try to ascend the heavens. So again, it's related to ascension, repelling those that are not permitted access, and creating the road for those that have access, like Musa, like the servants of Allah. That brings us to barakna, blessing. All of this has to do with blessing, something around this idea. Allah's blessing upon us. So when you look at barakna, what is this, the first use of this word? We cause the people, al-qawm, alladhina kanu, the ones who had been oppressed, to inherit the eastern regions of the land, of the earth rather, and the western ones, which we had blessed. So what is blessed? The easts and the wests of the earth are blessed. Okay? Specifically the blessed ones. And the good word of your Lord was fulfilled for the Bani Israel, for what they had patiently endured. That's how you know Bani Israel are not stuck in history. They're relevant today, just like Fir'aun is a relevant concept to us today. Then we see barakna again. We delivered Ibrahim and Lot to the ard, the one barakna fiha lil alamin. We had blessed for the worlds. It's still up for debate which place this is, but I'm just trying to highlight how these things are connected. It's clearly toward the ardi, the one we blessed in it for the worlds. Okay? Ibrahim and Lot. Then we have Sulaiman. To Sulaiman we subjected the wind, ar-rih, asifatan. It's a forceful or stormy wind, flowing like a current by his command toward the earth, the one we blessed in it. This is where Lot and Ibrahim were sent to, same place. It's described exactly the same way. Allati barakna fiha. Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at some other ones here. Okay, barakatin, blessings. And if only the Ahl al-Qura had believed and feared Allah, we would have opened upon them blessings from the heaven and the earth upon them, from the sama and the ardi. Let's look at the other one here. It was said, Ya Nuh, descend in peace from us and blessings upon you and upon nations from those with you, but other nations we will grant enjoyment, and then they will touch from us a painful punishment. Same chapter. They say, are you amazed at the decree of Allah? May the mercy of Allah and His blessings be upon you, Ahlul Bayti. Indeed, He is praiseworthy and honorable. This is talking towards the family of Ibrahim. Mubarakatin. This is talking about a blessed olive tree. Shajaratin mubarakatin zaytunatin. Neither of the east nor the westerly. And this is compared to a wandering star. I think this one. Indeed, we sent it down in a laylatin mubarakatin. This is the one I kind of want to look at more. Mubarakan. Indeed, first of a house delivered to mankind, for mankind. The one at Mecca, by Mecca. Not Mecca, that's a ba in there. It's Becca. Okay? Blessed and the guidance for the Alameen. Guidance specifically. For the worlds. All of the worlds. What else is Mubarakan? Nuh said, my Lord, let me land at a munzilan. That's like a place of hospitality, a place of where you have a home or a house. A blessed landing place. You are best to accommodate us. Munzilin. The Quran is a blessed dhikr, a blessed remembrance sent down. Isa is blessed wherever he is. A blessed book sent towards them. Mubarakan. We have sent down blessed water from the firmament, from the heaven, and made grow by there Jannat. A book which we have sent down blessed, confirming what was before it, that you may warn the mother of cities and those around it. It's almost like everything that comes down comes from a blessed place. Okay? Such as the Qur'an, even the Arabic language. And remember, I already told you that in chapter 17, Al-Aqsa is the place that is blessed. Surroundings. Okay? Let's move on. Mashariqa. So that's how you know there's more easts. There are more places of sharq, of east, and places of west. And this is where they were saved, Lut and Ibrahim, from the plan of Ibrahim's people. Now let's move on here. Becca, the very next verse for Becca, it says very clearly, in it are signs, ayat, bayinat, evident. Maqam Ibrahim. Maqam is a station, right? Like, for example, people are elevated in station. Maqam kareem, maqam ameen. Right? It's not poetry. For example, Idris was raised to a lofty station. And whoever enters it is aminan. And to Allah upon nas is a hijju. The word here is not hajj. Hijju. This is hajj. Whether it's a pilgrimage or not, hijj of the bayt. Whoever is able towards it, as-sabil. We're going to look at sabil as well. And whoever disbelieved, well, Allah is free from need, from the worlds. Okay? I hope you guys are still with me. Becca is not put in any category, but clearly there is some relationship with something weeping or flowing down like tears from the eyes. And I'm going to show you exactly why. So for example, in this particular example, it says that the heaven and the ardu, the earth, did not weep upon them. Bekat. It's related to bakkata. Bekat. Nor were they reprieved. Abaka, abaka makes one weep, right? Abaqa, something everlasting. Abaqa, abaka. This is how the sounds in Arabic are related. When you look at this root, bakkak, bakka, something that exudes, oozes down, liquid coming down, flowing down, bakka. A place something flows down. This is actually the word bekkata, bekka. This is actually the word bekka here, a squirt, a drop. Itbak, flowing down. A small nozzle or jet is a bikkata, bikkat. Okay, this is in Egyptian Arabic. And we see that the same root is alleged with Bekka as well, which they just say is the old word for Mecca. But clearly they're two different things. It's almost like you have Baba and Mama. Baba is father, Mama is mother. We've already established how Mecca and mother makes sense a lot. Bekka, Baba, is the masculine aspect to the same idea, a paradisical place of sustenance and signs of Allah's presence. Okay? Clear signs. Hujjat Allah. And it's interesting, it says, when you have boarded istawaita. This is always used making things equal, right? Like an equal platform. Whoever is with you of the fulk. A fulk is a ship, but we already have the word for boat or ship in the Quran, which is as-safina. Safina is a ship. Al-fulk is like a collective plural because it's undecided, is it ships or ship? The ships or the ship? Well, maybe it's a fleet that Noah went with. Not too sure. The idea is it's related to astronomical phenomena. Falakin. Falaq. Falaq is something that splits. The daybreak, right? Falaq. Faliq. Allah is Faliq. He is the splitter of matter itself. So it wouldn't surprise me if these ships are astronomical. Falakiyya refers to astronomy, orbiting. Whatever an orbit implies. Cosmic things, celestial things. So we already talked about this. This is indeed a sign for those surely are his signs, right? Now let's talk about as-sirat. As-sirat in all Islamic disciplines refers to a bridge over which every person must pass on the Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of resurrection, in order to literally enter Jannah, paradise. Okay? Early Muslim writers were uncertain how to spell this word, as it was rendered sirat or sirat and zirat. They were equally uncertain of its gender. That's because Muslim writers have added discrepancies in the physical text of the Quran that doesn't affect the actual mushaf called Hafs and Asim, which tells you it's sirat. That is the actual pronunciation, the only way you can pronounce it. The other qira'at are just forgeries. It appears ultimately to be Hellenized strata, street, which entered Arabic via classical Syriac. That's another lie, because those languages came after Arabic. Strata is Greek today. Strata is Latin as well. This is the word we use for a road as well as a celestial division, aka stratosphere. That's what they call it, stratosphere. And a street or strait. A strait is even called, like, the Strait of Gibraltar, like for flowing of water. It's also called a celestial partitioning, stratosphere. And it's called a road, street, like the street, The faithful will move easily and swiftly across a broad path, led first of all by Muhammad and other leading lights of the community on their way to Jannah. Okay? So, it's a road, it's a bridge, it's related to the scale, it's related to the Day of Judgment, it's related to the Futuhat al-Makkiyah. That's where this diagram is from, the conquest of Mecca. We'll talk about that in this series. There's also a Sirat al-Jahim adopted as well. Just like we saw Tariq al-Jahim, there's Sirat al-Jahim. The same concept can be described in different ways to give you a clearer picture. That's from the mercy of Allah giving you the Qur'an. Jacob's ladder in other religions like Judaism is symbolic of the aerial realm, the air between heaven and earth, through which departed spirits ascend before either united to God or falling back to earth. Okay? They ascend to Him or they go back to earth. We also have the same idea with the Chinvat bridge, which we'll look at briefly in Zoroastrianism. Manichaeism calls this path to heaven or paradise the pillar of glory and identifies it with the Milky Way. After we look at enough Quran verses, I'm going to show you what mythology and what you can find outside of the Quran to substantiate what it alludes to, particularly with the Milky Way. Even in fiction such as the novel Dune, it is describing a journey across the Sirat, same word, and it says paradise on my right, hell on my left, and the angel of death behind. The idea here is the Ashab al-Yamin are the ones inheriting paradise. Yamin is right, south. It's different. It's contrasted with Shimal, which is north, left. Okay, those ones inherit hell. So Frank Herbert just plagiarized the Quran in his own works and just changed the context. We have a Sirat bridge in Islam, and we have a Silat bridge. Kind of sounds like Salat as well. Aqrab as-Salat, as-Sirat. This is a bridge that the Yazidis believe leads to the most holy shrine. It symbolizes the connection and crossing over from the profane earthly world and the sacred esoteric world. It is contrasted with the Chinvat bridge in Zoroastrianism. Kind of sounds like Jannat bridge, to Jannah. The Jannat bridge is called the Bridge of Judgment, the beam-shaped bridge, the bridge of the requiter, the sifting bridge, where people must cross upon this great judgment. And it's often identified with the rainbow or with the Milky Way galaxy. You're going to see that quite a bit in this video. Some describe the Chinvat bridge as straight upward rather than curvilinear. Okay? I just want to show you the different approaches parallel to Islam. In Norse mythology, we have the Bilrost Bifrost, a burning rainbow bridge that reaches between Midgard and Asgard. Midgard, Mecca. Asgard, Aqsa. Okay? This is what this Sirat experience is. Sometimes it's referred to Asbru, meaning the Asir's bridge. The Asirs are basically the messengers, human messengers, deified in Norse mythology to gods. Notice this. This is the god Heimdall. What does this resemble in Sunni Islam? In Islam, we have the idea of the blowing of a horn by an angel called Israfil. That's exactly what he's doing. There's a rainbow bridge as well. This bridge is related to the Day of Judgment, Sirat, and there's a blowing of a horn by a messenger. They just changed the details. The story is the same. Scholars have proposed that the bridge may have originally represented the Milky Way, again, and have noted parallels between the bridge and another bridge in Norse mythology called Gjallarbru. We're going to show you what that means. Bifrost can mean shimmering path, tariq, sirat. It suggests the fleeting nature of the rainbow, which he connects to the first element of Bifrost, the Old Norse verb bifa, meaning to shimmer or to shake, kind of like the aurora borealis, shimmers in the sky. Noting that the element evokes notions of the lustrous sheen of the bridge. Austrian Germanist Rudolf Simek says that Bifrost either means the swaying road to heaven, or, if Bifrost is the original form of the two, the fleetingly glimpsed rainbow. Everything starts to make sense, even the idea of Yggdrasil in the last part, the world tree. What do you think is the purpose of that world tree? Why is a beam of light also used as a beam, like from a tree? In even a lot of languages, the word beam refers to bauma. Bauma means tree. Okay, I'm going to show you some other examples of that. Gjallarbru is the other tariq, the one that leads to hell. This spans the river Gjall in the underworld. It must be crossed, this bridge, the Gjall bridge, in order to reach hell. According to it, Gylfagning, it is described as a covered bridge thatched with glittering gold. Okay? So let's look at Sirat carefully, shall we? Surah Al-Fatiha describes it first. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Guide us of the straight path. We are of this straight path because you reading the Quran are from this Beni Israel culture, people, Ahl al-Kitab, people of the scripture, Ummiyin from Beni Israel. You're from them, and you're realizing now in this year of 2024 who you are and what is coming. Sirat alladhina an'amta alayhim. I said this in a couple live streams. This is talking about Beni Israel. It's their Sirat. They're named after it, and I'm going to show you exactly why. Alladhina an'amta alayhim, the ones who we bestowed favor upon them, accommodated upon them. That doesn't include the ones with the wrath upon them, and it doesn't include those who are astray. So it's very specific. Sifting the people, like the sifting bridge of Zoroastrianism. The foolish among the people will say, what has turned them away from their qibla, which they used to face? Say, to Allah belongs the east and the west. He guides whom He wills to a straight path. This one it says towards a straight path, because if you're living in the east or in the west, you will be actually guided towards the straight path if Allah wills, if you are of the believers. This is why this information is so crucial. He guides whom He wills to a straight path. That's a direction. Okay? Like when the messengers were inspired to do something, they transmitted to them in physical space, by which Allah guides those who pursue His pleasure to the ways of peace, as-salami, and brings them out from darknesses into the light by His permission, and guides toward Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path. Sirat really refers to a beam, like a beam of light, like the beam of a tree trunk, which is described along with this Aqsa voyage. And Mustaqim refers to something being straightened. Okay? Qiyam, Qawm, Iqama, Aqimu, all regarding straightness. Mustaqim is something that was bent, but it's straightened. The straightening, who knows what that event implies. But you get an idea, straight up and down, upright. Guides them to a straight path. Whomever He wills guides them to a straight path. Among their fathers and their descendants and their brothers, we chose them and guided them to a straight path. These are messengers mentioned in the verses prior. Isa, Yahya, Zakaria, Ibrahim, Ishaq, Yaqub, Nuh, Dawood, all of them. Sulaiman, Harun, Musa. They were all guided to this, all of them. So, and among their family, who were believers. This is the path of your Lord. هَذَا صِرَاطَ رَبِّكَ مُسْتَقِيمًا. We have detailed the verses for a people who remember. يَذْكُرُونَ. If you don't remember what the Quran is about, you're going to be in more trouble. This is what Allah is gifting us at this time. To remember. Remember who you are. Remember where you come from. Remember where you're returning. Remember what this Quran was sent for. This is my path, which is mustaqim. Sirati. Allah claims ownership of everything, right? So follow it. Follow as-subul. Do not follow as-subul. Follow sirat mustaqiman. It's like the sirat is guiding us in a way, with Allah's permission. For you will be separated from His way if you follow as-subul, something else parallel to this. 161 from chapter 6. Indeed, my Lord has guided me to a straight path. What is incumbent for being guided to siratin mustaqimin? Dinan qayyiman millat Ibrahima hanifan. And he was not from the mushrikeen. This is the prerequisite for being guided here. Sirataka. This is Shaitan's idea. He obviously is not from this path, and he will never ever have any salvation whatsoever. So he ascribes ownership to Allah, says your sirat. He knows exactly where he's going, and he's put in error. Okay? And he says, I will sit for them of sirataka al-mustaqim. He will wait for those specifically that were guided of this path. He will wait for them. When it says لَأَقْعُدُ, he's sitting. This is a physical place. He's sitting for them, lying in wait to ambush them. Okay? He has an army, Shaitan. He's waiting to ambush our return to this place. Allah says, do not sit on every path. Do not sit by every siratin, threatening and averting from the way of Allah those who believe in Him, seeking to make it deviant. That's exactly how it shows. Remember when you were few and He increased you? Let's see how was the end of the corruptors. This is all around this one word. Allah invites you, calls you to Dar as-Salam. Dar as-Salam kind of sounds like Jerusalem. Has nothing to do with Jerusalem as we know it. Guides whom He wills to a straight path. The abode of peace, the peace. And it's related towards Siratin Mustaqimin. Okay? My Lord is upon a Sirat Mustaqim. He's upon it. Figuratively, He's upon this. This is how people return aind Allah. They return in His vicinity, in His care. He will collect them. There is a place where His presence is really truly felt above all others. The path of the exalted in might, Al-Aziz Al-Hamid, the praiseworthy. هذا الصراط علي مستقيم. It is incumbent upon Him to make this straightened. Upon Him is the straightening. Grateful for His favors, Allah chose him and guided him to a straight path. Just looking at even these things in isolation shows you so much. This is Ibrahim. He was tasked first with guiding the Ummah, his followers, in chapter 60. He tells his father, "O my father," in prior verses, "do not follow shaitan." He says, "Indeed, there has come to me the knowledge, not come to you. So follow me. I will guide you to a path that's even." Same word, siratan sawiyan. Okay? Istawayta ala al-fulk. That's what it says. Istawayta sawiyan, related to the same root. For Nuh, chapter 20, 135. For you will know who are the companions of the sirati as-sawiyan, sound or even path, who is guided. Sirat al-Mustaqim. They were guided to good speech. طيبات من القول. Allah is the guide. إن الله لهادي الذين آمنوا إلى صراط مستقيم. He guides there. You're guided to a place. وإنك تدعوهم إلى صراط مستقيم. Who is this about? Prophet Muhammad. He's saying you invite them to a straight path. This can be any messenger, but it's especially the Prophet Muhammad, since the message came down first to him as the Rasul. It makes sense. He will fulfill what Ibrahim did in the past. Those who do not believe in the hereafter deviate. And the sirati, the nakibun. We're going to look at the nakibun, what that means. They deviate away from the path. Siratin. Who is this? This is Surah Yasin. Siratin. Yasin. Wal Qur'an. Al-Hakim. Innaka lamin al-mursalin. You, singular. The Prophet Muhammad. You, reading the Quran as a believer. You are upon Sirat al-Mustaqim. We don't actually see the full extent of this. This knowledge is with Allah. But clearly the methodology leads to the tariq. The tariq, mustaqim. Sirat mustaqim. Tanzeel al-Aziz al-Rahim. A download, something sent down. Okay? Like a bridge to the heavens and beyond the stars. Min dunillah. This is where He guides these people who take other than Allah. He takes them to the Sirat al-Jahim, the path of the Jahim, hellfire. Okay? We guided them on the straight path. Who? Well, Musa and Harun. Remember we told you the night journey, right? Musa and Harun. We saved both of them and both of their people from Al-Karib al-Azim, the great calamity. We supported them so they became the Ghalibin, the victorious ones. Like Rome, we're going to talk about Rome as well. We gave to both of them the Kitab al-Mustabeen and guided both of them of the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Revealed to you an inspiration of our command. You, O Muhammad, you guide to a straight path. I know that's in brackets, but he is sent. His mission is not done. Just watch my live stream, the 6th one. His mission is not done. I think it's the 8th one actually. Chapter 48 is all about the Prophet Muhammad, the conquest. Surah Al-Fatih. Allah may forgive you for what preceded you of your sin and what will follow, and complete His favor upon you and guide you siratan mustaqiman. And finally, let me see here. Allah has promised you much wealth, spoils of war you will take, and has hastened for you this and withheld the hands of people from you. That it may be a sign for the believers, He may guide you of a straight path. Then is one who walks fallen on his face better guided, or one who walks erect, he walks upon sawiyan, evenly, upon sirat mustaqim? It's a road, guys. It's a road. Yamshi. Yamshi is walking. So let's move on. For them is Dar as-Salam. Dhululan. What is this? Dhululan. Eat from all the fruits and follow the ways of your Lord. This is said to the bees that your Lord laid down for you. So your Lord made smooth, subul rabbika. Dhululan. Made smooth for you. It is He who made the earth tame for you. So walk among its slopes. Al-Arda, dhalulan. It's subservient, so walk. What do you think the Arda refers to? It's a section of the earth from the hereafter, essentially. So walk in its slopes. Manakibiha. And eat from its rizq. To Him is the nushur. Dangling low, tadlilan. The shades, above them are its shades. Its fruit will be picked, will be lowered in compliance. Something dhalul is docile, tractable, attract, submissive, gentle, compliant. This is why the earth is described. Something made level, facilitative, to level the terrain. Overcoming, conquering, surmounting of an obstacle, and the like. The Arda is the portion of what can be termed this region that's blessed. Al-Masjid al-Aqsa. Walk among its slopes, eat of His provision. To Him is the Nashur. Why would He describe this in the same ayah unless it's significant for the end of the story, the climax? Nakaba, to deviate or swerve, like those who deviate, seek to deviate from the right course, right? They change like the wind. Let's look at this more closely. Mankib, side or flank. Highland, upland. Mankib, manakib. Manakiba of the Arda. The highlands, the uplands, the slopes. Walk upon them. to salvation. Then we have dana, dunya. I already explained the connection between al-dunya and al-quswa and as-sufla. We also have the same thing for the akhirah as well. You have al-akhirah, you have al-ula, and you have al-ukhra. We are in the ukhra currently. The akhirah is coming. It's waiting for us. The last day. Al-adna. Al-adna, they say that's the lower life, right? هذا الأدنى. Nearer, nearest. Al-adna. Then you have al-aqsa. This is in conjunction with al-aqsa. Okay? That's where we live right now. The adna. This will happen adna al-ardi. In adna al-ardi, room will be victorious. Ar-room. Adna al-ardi. The nearest. Perhaps that does describe Mecca. That is where the victory is. فَكَانَ قَابَ قَوْسَيْنِ أَوْ أَدْنَى. This says he was at a distance of 2 bow lengths or nearer. This is describing the ascension aspect of Al-Isra wa Mi'raj, right? Why was it saying he was a distance of 2 bows? Does it really say distance? I guess. 2 bows or adna. Okay. Qawsayn would have to be a formula for aqsa. He even uses qasa related to qasa. Adna, aqsa. Ad-dunya. This is the one I showed you. عدوة الدنيا وهم بالعدوة القصوى. Then you have Jannah hanging near. Daniyatun. Jannah will be brought near for the believers, right? It will be brought near. And hell will rise. Hell will be behind them. Jannah will be brought near as the hour approaches. We've already seen this one, lowered in compliance. He who sends down rain from the sky. Its fruit are hanging low. Daniyatun. Danin. This is in Jannah. And yeah, we use this to show where Maryam is because it says wajana. Okay. وَزَيْتُونًا وَنَخْلًا. Okay. Nakhl. Nakhl is associated with paradise all the time. They're not date palms because we can't find any words for dates in the Quran mentioned specifically. But clearly Nakhl is connected to that story because the Nakhl, the Nakhla, one, and Nakhl is plural, are the trees that are responsible for Maryam's ascension. They even believe Maryam has ascended in Christianity as well. It's kind of like they have this out there in plain sight and they just scatter the evidence. Salabuhu fayuslabu. I discussed this in my Companions of the Cave Part 2 video. You should go watch that if you want more information. This is a command given to Fir'aun, given from Fir'aun to these quote-unquote magicians 3 times. It's also related to the spine or backbone, the loins from which the backbone rises. Kind of like the world axis. The trunk of your body is your spine. The trunk of the axis mundi, the world tree, is this trunk. He keeps saying, Fir'aun says, Judur' al-nakhl, Judur' al-nakhl. There's more than one, but the one in the middle is clearly incredibly important. Aslabikun as-sulbi. We'll look at those verses. So at-tara'ib is related to the root for trab or soil or dust. Tara'ib is related to the ribs. This is not talking about your ribs, but you are made in an analogous way to the cosmos, to the heavens and the earth. Are you a better creation than the heavens? Or is the samawat? Allah is saying, yukhraj, mankind's development, mankind's creation, spawning to life, was from between as-sulbi wa tara'ib. I already mentioned as-sulb is related to that pivotal axis. Everything pivots around. Axial, axial. And tara'ib is plural from tariba, the bones of the rib. There's exactly 7 true ribs in the human rib cage. 12 total. But what's interesting is that at-tara'ib is related to land, right? Because you can see that this is soil. They put dust everywhere. But it's soil. It's like something you bury with, right? So somewhere along the line, you follow the trunk of the world axis, and you find that the tara'ib are kind of these, I'm not sure what you would call them actually, but we know that the heavens are layered. We know that the heavens are 7, and there's 7 true ribs as well in the human that attach to the spine. Atraban is also related to this concept of soil, of earth, or planes of existence. And it refers to something contemporary, same time period. Okay, coeval, C-O-E-V-A-L. Coeval. This refers to the same age, the same contemporary age. For example, like when you dig in the ground, you can tell usually how old something is, depending how far you dug in the ground, right? The coeval age. That's what atraba means. It doesn't mean women that are virgins or something like that have the same age as you. That would be, really, the creator of the heavens and the earth has such a loftiness compared to an explanation like that we usually get from Islam and the Quran translations. So when you look at this idea of atraban, I'll have to make another video about this as well. عندهم قاصرات طرف أترابا. Why would it say عندهم? Why? Allah says a place of ma'ab, Jannat Adnin, mufattahatan, opened for them the gates. They are reclining in it, calling in it by every fruit, many of them, drinking. And عندهم, as if all of this is not virgins, we expect this to be, right? عندهم قاصرات الطرف. Why wouldn't it say معهم? Aren't these things humans? Or are they aliens? It doesn't make sense. It's clearly describing some kind of feature of this paradisical aqsa, feature of the environment. قاصرات is related to قصور, qasr, castles, fortresses. Maqsura in the mosque. Look up what a maqsura is. That's mentioned right here. Maqsuratan. That's one of their traits. They're maqsurat. Maqsurat. So you wouldn't call the box for important people in the mosque. You would not call that a virgin or fair ones. Hur has nothing to do with virginity whatsoever. Has nothing to do with some kind of fantasy that men have in Islam. Okay. Again, it's a bit sidetrack irrelevant, but I'm just showing you these things are all related clearly. Atraban, tara'ib, trab. Then you have Kaaba. Kaabata is mentioned twice. We have in Sunni Islam the concept that there are 2 Kaabas. One is here on the earth in the center of the world. The other one is directly above it. And they call that Al-Bayt Al-Ma'mur, the highest Kaaba, the Qibla. Okay? So the idea is that if you were to make kind of a, diagram of what this looks like, you have a plane. The center of it is kind of like an axis that rises from the center all the way to the highest reaches to the highest plane. That highest plane has another Kaaba, whereas the one in the nearest plane in the center has another Kaaba. And I'm going to show you what that probably looks like as well. That's why it's related to the word Ka'bain or ankles, because these are stabilizers used for stability. People enter these places as believers and messengers with stability, safety, security. So Kawa'ib has nothing to do with splendid companions, full-breasted companions. They actually went that far every Ramadan to recite full-breasted atraban. No. Atraban, I already showed you, has something that's contemporaneous in the environment. That's why at-tarf is like this line of sight, that your turf, right? This is my turf, my territory, right? That's your line of sight. Atrab has to be related to the roof or soil. It's not just simply equal age. They added in the age and equal part to make you think that these are some kind of like, you know, virgins that are all 33, like everyone is 33 in Jannah or something. No. Kawa'ib is related to some kind of a stabilizing thing with this realm. And that's why when you look at the word for a Kaaba, Kaaba is like a shrine, right? You'll see that one of the ideas behind it is a ferrule. A ferrule is literally what connects a shaft between itself. It's a stabilizer. Okay, so it doesn't bend. You can see why. A metal pivot on the end of an axle, something it rotates around. Under the influence of Latin, ferrum. We already talked about the magnetic mountain, iron. Threaded, turned, twisted. This thing has its branches, like the ribs are branches from your spine in the heavens. It's turning and twisting. The heavens turn around us. You can look at video footage of that very easily. So it's something that stabilizes the axis of the worlds. Even shows you right here. Ka'b, ferrule. Whatever shape it's in, it is something very profound. Okay? Kaaba, shrine. But mainly, focus of interest, object of veneration. This would be the most important object in the world, because it would be in the center of the center of the center. Okay? So, gardens. Hada'iq. Let's look at some gardens. This word actually refers to something that encircles around. Hadaqa. Whenever you see the word qaf somewhere, qaf is going to refer to something that surrounds like a container. When you see kaf, kaf is usually something that is the containment. What's contained by the container. Isn't that amazing? Qaf, kaf. Bakka, Makkah. Aqsa. Hada'iq. Is it not He best who created the heavens and the earth and sent down for you rain from the sky, causing to grow thereby gardens of joyful beauty, which you could not otherwise have grown, the trees thereof? These gardens are not jannat, it's hada'iq. They're like victory gardens circling around you. I'm going to have to show you in the next part what that looks like possibly. Hada'iq wa a'naban. I'm going to show you why a'naban is so key. It's not just grapevines. Anybody can grow grapevines. Allah is talking about something very, very unbelievable. Okay? And then here we have wa hada'iq ghulban. This is not green shrubbery, because when you look at this word, it has to do with the victory. It has to do with overcoming, prevailing, achievement, not thick foliage. And funny enough, we have this concept of victory gardens encircling around us like parks, rings. Okay? Yep. So we could not have grown the trees thereof. Those trees are on a scale we cannot even comprehend. What does a trellis mean? How do grapes grow like? Hada'iq would be 2D. Basically, it's a plane surrounding you. A'nab would be 3D, upwards. And that's exactly how we see people growing grapes today. Just scale this to the scale the Creator sees. Massive arches, arshes, urush. I'm going to show you what that means as well. Ya'rujuna, ascension, ya'ruju. There is ascension in the Quran. But this ascension has two different words because it's showing two different ways. It's specific. Let me show you. Even if we open to them a gate from the firmament, from the heaven, and they continue therein to ascend, that's how you know there is something unlocked in this journey, the night journey. He arranges matters. He arranges the command from the heaven to the earth, then it will ascend to him in a day, the extent of which is 1,000 of a year, of which you count. It ascends, the command itself. Ma'arij is the name of chapter 70. This is where we get Mi'raj from. They translate it as stairways. There's a stairway to heaven, just like the Led Zeppelin song. And if it were not that the people would become one community, we would have made for those who disbelieve in the most merciful for their houses ceilings and stairways of silver. Ma'arij, because a stairway makes you ascend, right? A new level in a house. He's saying stairways of silver, ceilings from silver, and stairways. Why? Why would he be saying that? Did you know that Allah's name, Min Allah, Dhil Ma'arij, He's the owner, the bearer of the Ma'arij. It's within His grasp. The ways of ascent, the stairways to heaven, to Jannah. Okay? So when we go here, we see this exact same concept. Araja, to ascend, mount, rise. Place of ascent. Ladder, stairs, stairway, staircase, chapter 70. Ladder, stairs. Midnight journey to the 7 heavens made by Muhammad. It's not from Jerusalem, it's from Mecca, the real Mecca in the center of the world. Ta'arij means curves, curvatures, bends, turns, twisting, winding, sinuosities. Have you guys ever seen a stairway that spirals? Have you ever seen a spiral staircase? They're really beautiful. This is the idea. It spirals around like a serpent spiraling around the tree of the Garden of Eden. Wavy lines. To make a zigzag in something. Arraja. To bend, turn, incline, lean towards. Winding, wind, curving, meandering. This is describing a bit of the mechanism, how this journey is made. Al-asbab. Does this mean the relations? No. It means cut off from them are the ways, the asbab. It has the word door in there, asbab. The course, the means. It's really a means. So Dhul Qarnayn was given a means to everything. He's given a means three times specifically. And when it says bisababin, no. It's not let him extend a rope to the ceiling. Let him extend a means to the ceiling. Dunya wal akhirati falyamdud, by a sababin toward the firmament, toward the heaven. Okay? It's cut off. It's not cutting off his breath. Allah's not describing a hanging. He's talking about a means of access. Let them ascend through any ways of access. Okay? Is theirs the kingdom of the heavens and the earth and what is between them? Or is it Allah's? Pharaoh said, O Haman, construct for me a sarhan, so that I may perhaps reach the asbab, the ways, the means, into the heaven. Pharaoh is trying to conquer the paradise. He's trying to ascend however way he can. Asbab as-samawati. This is what he's talking about. In the very next ayah, the ways into the heavens, he defines it. So that I may look at the deity of Musa. But indeed, I think he is a liar. And was made attractive to Fir'aun, the evil of his deed, he was averted from the way. Ayn as-sabil. The plan of Pharaoh was not except in ruin. Pharaoh talks about ascension, specifically. Yes, he's a villain. But clearly he knows something that we're not taught. And he's trying to get there. Tarqa is the other word for ascending. And this is more of a very, how can we put it? Very basic understanding of it. To ascend something, in something, towards something, to mount or scale. Like you're climbing a mountain. To lead, ascend, to rise. Someone of high standard. A faith healer is a raqin, incantation, exorcism, ruqya. I'm not sure what the connotation is, but it's interesting that that's related to this root. Stairs, staircase, ladder, raising, upgrade, promotion, elevation. You get the idea. Tarqa. Or do you have a house of gold? A house from ornaments, precious metals, or you ascend in the heaven. And we will not believe in your ascension. Ruqayka, until you bring down to us a book we may read. Say, exalted is my Lord, was I ever but a human messenger? It's the Prophet Muhammad. Okay? He's the one charged with this. And it is said, who will cure him? Really, who will cure him? Do you notice that the heavens and the earth is talked about anatomically? This is how Allah talks about the creation. Say no. When balagati at-taraqiya, when it reaches at-taraqiya, the collarbones, doesn't that sound like tariq? If this is the collarbones, anatomically, this is really like extremely high in the cosmos, beyond the heavens, beyond the stars. This is not your collarbones. And it is said, who ascends? That's it. It's 3 words. وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ. Who cures? Now, it's not talking about this death. Who ascends? Who's responsible for that? Raqin. You have it right here. Ascending, rising. Raqin. Not curing. وَظَنَّ أَنَّهُ الْفِرَاقِ. This firaq is related to Musa's night journey, his salvation for Bani Israel, parting the seas. And he assumes that it is the firaq. So it's talking about the disbelievers. They think they're ascending into heaven. They've prepared their entire New World Order to do this. And they're going the other way. They're going the opposite direction. They're going into tariq al-jahim, tariq jahannam, sirat jahannam. So then we have this idea of al-afaq. That's horizons, frontiers. The final frontier is what? Space. Interstellar travel between the stars, the wandering stars. Everything that we're taught is essentially coded. And that's why we have to look at things objectively via the Furqan called the Qur'an. Why is the Qur'an called the Furqan? It's related to splitting, parting things. Faraq. It's related to falaq, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. So, al-afaq, we will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them it is the haqq. In the horizons, plural, there's more than one, on our frontier and the highest one. The highest one is where the Prophet Muhammad, his story is told. وَهُوَ بِالْأُفُقِ الْأَعْلَى. That word al-a'la is the supreme, the council of angels of the supreme. Allahu al-a'la, your Lord al-a'la. That's a chapter in the Quran. There's a horizon, a supreme horizon. وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ, he was shown him by the al-afaq, the frontier of the clear, the mubin. There's nothing hidden up there. Qaba. So remember this, when he was a distance of 2 bow lengths or nearer. Dana, we've already shown, or adna, nearest, right? Here we see small distance, short span between the middle and the end of a bow. Middle and the end of a bow. Interesting. Almost like 2 paths emerge from a recurved bow. Do you know what they call a bow, a long bow in Latin? They call it arcus, arch, an arc. This is how electricity is called. This is how an arch in architecture, it arcs. Light bends as well. It's like the Prophet Muhammad in his night journey. It's like being shot out. They try to shoot arrows at the heavens in hadith, right? Why? What is the coded knowledge they tell us? And these are 2 bows. This is not one, like 2 bow lengths. It's 2 bows. That's it. Do you know that this is what we call the rainbow? Qaws al-matar. Al-matar is like something that is like when Allah says we rained upon them evil, right? This is in Arabic to this day called a bow, like a long bow, because of the shape. It's the shape of the heavens. And it has all the colors of visible light in there. And it's basically an arc. What do they say at the end of the rainbow is gold, right? Jannah is described with gold. The planetary spheres, kawakib, these are wandering stars. And these wandering stars constitute the 7 heavens. Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, Saturn, Jupiter, 7. The other 2 they added in there. They just called it Gaia, the Earth, or sorry, they called it Pluto, the underworld, and they call it Neptune, the sea, basically the sea of the heavens. So one of them is called Az-Zohra, the brilliant one. That's another name for Al-Uzza, the Meccan goddess of power mentioned in the Quran. Might and planet Venus as the evening star. If you want more information about At-Tariq and the Islamic understanding from the Quran of Venus, I suggest that you watch a Endgame Islam series in 3 parts about At-Tariq, the piercing star. Okay. So when we go down, what we see about 3 deities: Al-Uzza, Al-Lat, and Manat. So the ancient Arab tribes collectively had a number of different sky gods, but I needed a suitably primordial one. Uranos is properly father sky. Quzzah, the Meccan god of thunder. His wife is Manat, equally one of the eldest deities, just like Uranos' wife Gaia. Quzzah's name actually survives in the language as the Arabic word for rainbow. Qaws, Quzzah. Quzzah's bow. That's what the rainbow is called, as a bow. But we're told that basically Manat is the earth goddess to the Meccan people. Allat, Allat is the goddess of the underworld for the Meccan people. It says Pluto's role fulfilled by Lat, goddess of the underworld. Her color is the gray of the lower world, but with the blue shimmer that appears from different angles, you've come to think of the underworld as the world of the dead. Okay. Let me just show you, for example. We have 3 goddesses, right? In the Quran. They're called goddesses. Let me just show you their names. So, this is really cool actually. These goddesses are manifestations. They're actually things that the people have named them themselves. And they're not actually literal goddesses. And in my mind, I think what this describes is these 3 planes of existence. So, for example, you have the dunya, the quswa, and the sufla. The dunya is the middle world. That's where we live. The quswa is the higher plane, like Aqsa. Sufla, as-sufla is the lowest plane, like the underworld, like hell. Then you have al-akhirah, al-ula, al-ukhra. Al-ula, when you just use process of elimination, it fits the hell aspect more. Al-ula, the first, the kind of formless, chaotic, former kind of, primordial creation. Al-ukhra describes our world, the other, the middle one. And al-akhirah describes the higher plane, the paradisical Elysium plane. Then, of course, al-adna is here in our world somewhere. Al-aqsa is above us. Al-asfali, that's below us. So when you see, for example, Allat wal-Uzza wa Manat al-Thalathita, al-Ukhra, tells you right here, she is the Ukhra. She is the third. The third is always the middle in between the pair. That's why you'll always find everything is made in pairs, and the middle, the third singular individual, is in the middle between the pairs. Okay? Allat, the underworld. Al-Uzza, the heavenly world. The ayah ends. That new ayah begins. And Manat, al-Thalathita. Al-Thalithata. Sorry. Al-Thalithata. Al-Ukhra. She is the Ukhra. And you can find this explained more. We can talk about this in the next video, inshallah. The planes of existence. They just named them. They named them these names. Okay? So then we have Sidrin, Sidrat al-Muntaha, the whole story of the ascension in Surah Al-Najm, the Prophet Muhammad. Ra'ahu nazlatan ukhra. Nazlatan ukhra. Now you know where this is. Okay? عند سدرة المنتهى منتهى عندها جنة الموءى إذ يغشى السدرة ما يغشى. If you think that this means lot tree, and I'm going to show you what a lot tree looks like. A lot tree forms in the desert. It forms in the desert. It doesn't form in a Jannah. Okay? Sidrat al-Muntaha. The utmost boundary in the 7th heaven. Think about what that sounds like. Sidr. Sidrata. Near the Jannah. A haven with fruits and garden, everything in there. It's not going to be a tree that grows in the desert. Rather, could it very well be a cedar? Cedar. You see, you know, people have like a long history of this plant, of this particular tree. Some countries have it on their flag. If you look at this article, you'll find basically the word for cedar, arz, was only changed recently. Arz al-Rab. Why would it be called Arz al-Rab? The cedars of God. Shajrat Allah. Sidrat Allah. Right? So, yeah, this is a really interesting one. The cedars are mentioned all the time. Now, let's look at here. Awa, to take shelter, to retreat to something. We sheltered them. Who was sheltered here? Oh, that's right, the son of Maryam, Isa, and his mother Maryam. They were sheltered with a high ground having level areas and flowing water. Really? Where is that today? That's in Jerusalem, in Palestine? No, not at all. This is very specific. This word, mawa', like I showed you for Jannah, al-maw'a, ma'wa. Every time you see an orange here, this is regarding hell, the abode for the disbelievers, the blasphemers. That's their abode, the mushrikeen. Look how many times it's orange. Only a couple times, exactly 3 times, it is for Jannah. Those who believed and did righteous deeds, for them will be the gardens of refuge. The Prophet Muhammad went to Jannah. He went there. Jannat al-Maw'a, Ma'wa. عندها جنة المأوى. Indeed, فإن الجنة هي المأوى. Who is this the refuge for? The one who restrained the soul about the hawa, who feared the position of his Lord's maqam. And then we see who retreats in the same thing, the youths that retreat to the Kahf. Retreat to the Kahf, sheltering. He gave you shelter. Okay? Think about this. Jannah of the refuge, and these messengers and prophets taking refuge. There has to be a connection. I mentioned that Miriam and her son were sheltered on a rabwatin, a height, a high ground. This high ground is only mentioned exactly one other time, the same sound, bi rabwatin. And it's mentioned the example of those who spend their wealth seeking means to the approval of Allah and assuring themselves is like a garden on a rabwatin, by a rabwatin, where Maryam and Isa would be. It's hit by a downpour, right? Rutuban, that's moisture. So it yields its fruits in double. And if it is not hit by a downpour, then a drizzle, a law of what you do is seen. Rabian, something that's excessive, excessively high, rising. This is related to the word for riba, excessiveness in transactions. Okay? Swelling, increase. Interesting thing that marba means a place for raising animals, terrarium, aquarium. The heavens are very much an aquarium. Rabwati, they tell you, is 10,000 or myriad. Perhaps that has something to do with, I don't know what the connection is there, but they just put hill. So further investigation is needed to really identify that. Qararin. Qararin. What is a qararin? Something stabilized. Maybe stabilized by a ka'b. The ka'bain. Right? The example of a bad word is like a bad tree, uprooted from the surface of the earth, having no qarar. Qarari. This is for hell. Let's look at this one. We made the son of Mary and his sign. So we gave them a high land. We sheltered them towards a high land containing qararin wa ma'in. Qararin wa ma'in. It's the springs. Like, where is that word used? We're going to show you. Al-Qarar is described. The home of Al-Qarar. Like Dar al-Salam, Dar al-Qarar. The worldly life is nothing. The hereafter is the Dar al-Qarar. That's where this Jannah is coming from. You see not best to make the Arda, the earth of the Akhirah, Qararan, placed within it, Khilalaha, An-Nahar. Made for it firmly set mountains. It's not mountains, it's Rawasiya. It's like anchors, like a haven, like a harbor, right? Because it's upon the waters of the heavens. That's why it's related to the pearls, right? Like Pearl Harbor is the plain sight. Alaska, Al-Aqsa, right? And placed between the two seas a barrier. Is there a deity with Allah? Nope, there is not. Here we have another one. It is Allah who made for you the arda qararan was-samaa bana'an. So He constructed the heaven of the heavens. It's a physical, solid formation. That brings us to the falaq, the falaqa. We inspired to Musa, idrib bi'asaka al-bahri, bahra. And it parted, and each portion was like a great towering mountain. But the word is not there for great towering mountain. Firqin, each firq, each section, parting, was like a tawd al-azim. I'm going to have to show you at another time what that could be, maybe for part 7. For part 7. But tawd al-azim, there's words in Arabic that basically describe that as something lofty, because mitada is a blimp or a zeppelin, something that's elevated in the sky. This is what it's related to. But Musa parted this. Okay? Then you have Al-Falaq. Allah is the Lord of the Falaq. Then He's called Al-Faliq. I mean, this is where things get pretty nuclear, because when you look at it, Allah is saying, Inna Allah faliq al-habbi wal-nawa. I mentioned this in a live stream or a video with Endgame Islam called Ar-Rahman, briefly. And basically, Al-Habbi, he is basically the splitter of the Habbi. Habbi is like a particle, right? And Nawa doesn't mean date seed. Nawa means nucleus, nuclei. This is what everything is made from. Dharri, dharratin. So you have particles and you have nuclei, which forms atoms. This is in the Quran. That's why there are no nukes anyone can create. Allah is Faliq al-Habbi wa-nawa. He brings forth the living from the dead. This is why they can never be able to do this. He's the one with full control over every particle of the cosmos, the universe. And this is related to al-falaq, the splitting of matter, splitting the atom, splitting the particle, splitting the nuclei. Then it says faliq al-isbah. This word is related to what happened with Lut's people. They became musbihin. Okay? Misbah are the lamps in the heavens. Masabih. As-subuh. That's when they were destroyed by the morning. He's the cleaver of al-isbah. He's made the layl a rest. A resting place. Okay. Moving on. We talked about ceilings of silver, stairways of silver. Let's look at the word for silver here. So this one we said ceilings from silver and stairways. Okay, stairways obviously to the heaven. There would be no need for Allah to mention any ordinary stairway. He's the creator of the universe. Silver is described in conjunction with, I guess, cups made clear. And this word qawarir is related to qarar, the abode of eternity, whether it's in hell or in paradise. But this one particularly is in paradise. Silver. They tell you it's exorbitant to drink from silver cups in Sunni Islam. Rubbish. Allah is telling you the believers have what they have in Jannah in this life and exclusively in Jannah in chapter 7. Clear glasses, qawarir, from fiddatin, silver. A special kind of silver that's so pure it's transparent. Maybe it means something even more profound than that. But that's from the basic translations that they give us. All adorned with bracelets, asawir, from a silver. Their Lord will give them purifying drink. You see, wearing silk, brocade, silver. This is not about just women. This is talking about all believers, men and women who share a reward in Jannah, wear silk and silver. This is what the ceiling is made of. And I already mentioned the word for ceiling is saqaf, roof. There is another word for ceiling. This is more so a roof. So the roof is a silver dome, as-saqf, the roof. It says, those before them had plotted, and came Allah at their bunyan. You know who made the bunyan? Min al-qawa'id. Al-qawa'id, the foundations. This is related to Ibrahim's story. Ibrahim is the one raising the foundations from the Bayt. Then you have bunyan. Bunyan is what they try to build for Ibrahim, not a furnace. Construct for him a bunyan. Toss him in Jahim, in the fire. It's not just the burning fire. Toss him in hell. Al-Jahim. Nope. Allah came at the bunyan, their bunyan, from the foundations, the qawa'id. This is what Dhul Qa'ida is named after, by the way. Dhul Qa'ida. So fell upon them the saqaf, the roof, the saqaf, from above them. And came to them the adhab from where they did not perceive. The roof of the dunya. We made the sky a protected ceiling. وَجَعَلْنَا السَّمَاءَ سَقْفًا مَحْفُوظًا. And there from its signs turning away. That's the sama. That's the sama, the most important one when it comes to all the samawat, right? Then you have suquf. So there's more than one roof. Okay? And these suqufan are from silver. Allah says it's from silver, right there. Then you have as-saqfi marfu'a. This is not the heaven. The heaven is sama. This is the roof raised high. You know, like that thing they put into our pop culture, you know, raise the roof. Allah is talking about a actual physical, the saqfi of the marfu'. Marfu' are things that are suspended, like levitating. They're suspended upwards. Okay? Where do we find a silver dome? Oh, that's right. We find a silver dome on Masjid Al-Aqsa, the one they have concocted in Al-Quds in Jerusalem. Silver dome. This is not Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is Dome of the Rock. This is Al-Aqsa Mosque, which has a silver dome to this day. What are the odds? What are the odds? These people, you don't think they know what the Quran says, clearly? They made it all symbolic. Are you a more difficult creation? Or is the sama'u? He constructed it. Literally a solid construction. He raised her ceiling. Semk. This word is used only once in the Quran. It does mean ceiling. And What's interesting about this, semk is the word that's close to the word for fishes. Fishes, samak. Talk to any Arab speaker, they will tell you samak means fishes, any kind of fish. Allah doesn't even need to use the word for fishes. This is part of how He allows people to remember the dhikr, because He doesn't need to spell out everything for everyone. He put all the clues in there. Now He leaves it to people to think. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ أَفَلَا تَفَكَّرُونَ. Do they not think or reflect or remember? This is what it's all about. It's related to thickness, as in height, and it's a ceiling. So really what we have in the heavens is an aquarium, the most magnificent one you can ever see. Maybe that's why they have these kinds of aquariums where you're literally inside. Like these ones. The fish are above you in a dome-like door. This would be one way of imagining something like this. So, yeah, we go on to this, and what we see here is Arsh. Arsh is really interesting because, Arishun, we're always told Arsh means throne. That's all that we get, throne, Allah's throne. However, it doesn't work in all cases. And even if that is the meaning behind the word, what does that imply? Is it literally a physical thing? Do we have to anthropomorphize God even further? Or is it something simply erected? Okay? Allah says He destroyed everything that Pharaoh was erecting. He tells the bees, make your homes among the mountains, okay, the trees, and what they erect, construct towards the heavens. Allah says a city fell upon its roofs, it fell upon its arches. That's really what it means. Arch, arsh, arch. You have even Ark of the Covenant, a rainbow. This is in the story of Noah in the Bible. The covenant is the rainbow. It fell upon its roofs, a city, qarya, not thrones. Then you have urushiha, trellises. This is a garden. Urushiha, they're trellis. Like I showed you, the grapevines have the same arch shape. Like all of the words for architecture comes from this. Architecture, arch, erecting structures for living, for all kinds of purposes. Architecture, arch. It collapsed on its trellises. Okay? How many a city did we destroy while it was committing wrong? Collapsed upon its urushiha, lofty palaces, qusrin. Alright? So when you see ma'rushatin, trellised and not trellised gardens, now you see why the garden has to be elevated, erected. Arasha, it's not related to throne, it's related to erection of abode. Arasha, arasha. You just flip it. Sha'ar. Sha'ar is talking about Masjid al-Haram. Isn't that amazing? It can also mean a shed, like something that contains something else, raised up, the walls raised up. And just look at these words: arish, bower, arbor, railing, espalier, pole, beam. These are all related to arsh. Yusuf raised his two forefathers upon the arsh. Did he sit on Allah's arsh? No. This is a realm unto itself, described by its function. They can't bow in prostration on a seat. It's a physical realm upon the arsh. That's why Allah, it doesn't say He established Himself upon the arsh. What it says is istawa al arsh. He made it even. Even, like he made like many things even. You go into this one here. Establish himself above? No. Evened. He made an evening upon the arsh. And subjected the sun and the moon. The arch. That's why they're called archangels. They hold this entire thing up. The strongest creatures in the universe. Look at this. Arasha, to erect a trellis for grapevines. Train on a trellis or espalier, to trellis for vines that climb. Vines climb. That's the verb that all the nouns are based from. Arsh, throne. Then you have the same thing here in Maghribi, Moroccan. Arsh, tribe. Interesting. Then you have the nest of a bird. A nest of a bird is high up in the branches of the great tree. The birds in mythology in the last episode 5, they all come from above. The birds have a great nest. The birds are mentioned all throughout the Quran. Then you have arish. That's an arbor or a bower. I'm going to show you pictures of what that looks like. Arish also means gazebo. Arish is a hut made of twigs. A booth, a shack, a trellis for grapevines, a shaft, carriage pole that holds everything up, like the axis mundi. To roof over, to climb, rise. To make a trellis for vines, trellis, lattice work, pergola, to climb, atarasha. Now you see the ascension. Everyone says, like, for example, like here, he ascended the arsh. Why would that makes no sense? Why does it always have to be high up? It's high up because the physical one that Allah is talking about is a realm, Al-Aqsa. They ascend to Al-Aqsa. This is a bower. Notice the arch shape that this bird makes. This is a bower bird. This is Encyclopedia Britannica's definition of a bower. It looks kind of like the arch of a grapevine, but this is for trees, hence the name bower. It's for trees, shaping trees, just like the arch that I showed you for the aquarium. Okay, bower, it bows. Then you have a pergola. Look at the shape of this thing. Does that not look like a ceiling supported by beams? Sirat. Kulli sirat. Allah knows there's more than one. But only one in the center will give you the sirat. There's subul, ways of access to the height. This is an arbor. The same thing. Gives you the same shape, architecture. And this is always associated with gardens. Go figure. The gardens are this shape. They're at the very top, the high plane. And we're beneath it. It's beyond the stars. The stars are like the pearls in the sea until you reach this haven. A haven is just a harbor. Have you ever seen this? This is called a chuppah in Hebrew. This is for Jewish weddings. And what's interesting about this is arish is the word for Arabic of this structure. And aris, arus, you just change the sheen to a sin. That's a bridegroom. Amazing. This is something about our history where Adam and Eve are connected to. Clearly. As above, so below. That's what they say, you know? Like, think about this for a second. The arch of the world, the arch of the covenant. And interestingly enough, we see that Mahdi, I'm not talking about Mahdi, the Islamic Messiah. I'm talking about Mahd. Mahd is a cradle, and it's related to something spread out. Why would the cradle be spread out, expansed? Maybe because it's the arda, the akhirah ard, arda. To expand, to spread out, to pave the way, to adjust, to prepare. We are the mahidun, Allah says, the best of the mahidun. It means cradle as mahd. The cradle of mankind, the cradle of civilization. On Mecca, you have a piece of it. It's a piece of it in the dunya. The piece came from above. That's why they say the black stone fell from the heavens. Who was born in the cradle? Well, that's right. Isa was born. He was communicating in the cradle. That's not just some cradle that Maryam was bringing along with her. Communicating in the Mahdi. That's why it was a miracle. He spoke from the Mahdi. Cradle in Hebrew is arsh. What are the odds? And this is sha'ar, arsh, shar arsh, lullaby. Sha'ar is poetry, singing. So, when you see this word for Mahdi, cradle, okay, it's unrelated to the Islamic awaited Savior. But guess what? When we come to part 8, part 9, you will understand why they named the Savior of Islam the Mahdi. Because Mahdi with a ya at the end means something of the Mahd, something of the cradle, the one of the cradle. Is it Isa? Well, we know that he spoke from there, but who ascended there officially in Islam? What you're going to find is, this is a place all the people were guided to. All of the believers, all the prophets, all the messengers from Bani Israel, and who knows what else. They all were guided to the straight path. The straight path led them to the light. Allah says, do not think those who are killed in the way of Allah, slaughtered, they are not dead, they are alive with their Lord, Ainda Rabbi, receiving provision in the gardens of paradise. Al-Aqsa, the final destination. The final destination, imagine. He made the earth for you a mahd. This is the ardah of the akhirah. Okay? And inserted for you, salaka lakum fiha subulan. These subulan are attached to highways into Jannah, the heavens, that they always try to ascend. The one who made for you the earth a bed, again, arda mahdan, made for you upon it, not upon it, he made for you in it, subulan, that you may be tahtadun, guided. Okay? So now we're going to look at some fun stuff after the Qur'an establishes what we're looking at. And let's start with Finnish mythology. This is the structure of the world according to Finnish mythology. Pretty simple yet accurate, I would say. There's a cosmic dome of the starry heavens and all of their celestial spheres. And it rotates around a central axis. And this central axis arises from a mountain. And around the mountain is a whirling or a churning, like the mikhad, which they have translated as the child pangs, the birth pangs of Maryam. But I'm going to show you what the mikhad could possibly be. The Milky Way. It's spiral, just like the Milky Way, guys. This is Finnish mythology. And the world was believed to have been formed out of a bird's egg or eggs, hence the shape. The sky was believed to be the upper cover of the egg. Alternately, it was seen as a tent, which is supported by a column at the North Pole, below the North Star, Polaris. That's how you know where Mecca is. Mecca to Becca. Al-Masjid al-Haram to Al-Masjid al-Aqsa. The movement of the stars was explained to be caused by the sky dome's rotation around the North Star and itself. A great whirl was caused at the North Pole by the rotation of a column of sky. That's basically the pillar, the axis mundi, the jidha nakhla, the trunk of the great tree, the axis mundi. Through this whirl, souls could exit the world to the land of the dead, to Allah. Earth was believed to be flat. At the edges of Earth was Lintukoto, the home of the birds, a warm region in which birds lived during the winter. The Milky Way is called Linnunrata, the path of the birds, because the birds are believed to move along it to Lintukoto and back. In modern Finnish usage, the word Lintukoto means an imaginary, happy, warm, and peaceful, paradise-like place. Birds brought a human soul to the body at the moment of birth and took it away at the moment of death, like angels. In some areas, it was necessary to have a wooden bird figure nearby to prevent the soul from escaping during sleep, because they understood sleep is a type of death. This Sialulintu, the soul bird, protected the soul from being lost in the path of dreams. Okay? This is Finnish mythology. Structure and origins of the world. Very concise. Lintukoto means home of birds. It means a place, paradise-like place where birds migrate every winter because it was located near the edge of the sky dome. The edge, the Aqsa. The sky was very close to the ground, and therefore its inhabitants were dwarfs. A paradise-like place. Suomi ei ole lintukoto means Finland is not a safe country, meaning the safe country, the Aminin Kariman country, is this paradise-like place. This is a list of names for the Milky Way. The word Milky Way is related to the word for galaxy because galactos means milk in Greek. And up until the 20th century, everybody understood the galaxy, the only single galaxy ever understood, as being the Milky Way. And then the modern sciences added a bunch of other ones. In Albanian, Kashta et Kumtrit, Godfather's Straw. Apulian, St. James Trail. Arabic, Darbat Tabbana, Haymaker's Way. Or Darbat Labbana, the modern way, the Milky Way. Aramaic, Fire Stream, River of Light. That's in the Bible, the Milky Way. This is a way we can understand what the Sirat actually is. It's a beam. And then we have the snake of the skies, Sheret Shame in Akkadian. Maybe because it coils upwards like a snake. Asif in Engenwan, Kabil, the heavens river. Putushnaya Daroga, way of the birds. Chai Apath, shadow path, reflected path in Bengali. We also have in Bengali Akasha Ganga, Ganges of the ether, the upper sky, from a Milky Way. We have Vetrarbreiten in Faroese, Faroe Islands, Firaun Islands, the winter way. Hawaiian, Hoku Nohu Aupuni, the ruling star, like the Tariq star. Leleu Ona, it sounds a bit like lu'lu', shark sucker. Shark is just in Arabic qarsh, like Quraysh. Fire stream, river of light. Neher Ha'ash in the Bible in Hebrew. Hungarian, Hadak Utya, road of the warriors, those that are slain in battle. The Mujahids, the martyrs. Vetra Brautin, the winter's way, in Icelandic. Klai Morna Rialtai, the great fence of the stars in Irish. Korean, Unhasu, silver river, sea of milk in Malayalam. Roman road, Rimska Cesta in Slovenian, because pilgrims followed it when traveling to Rome. Yes, these pilgrims from Mecca followed it because its destination is a Roman colony. Compostela, field of stars. Compostela literally means field of stars. That's what this thing is called, the Milky Way. Vintergatan, winter street, from Swedish. Tai means the way of the white elephant. The northern peoples observed that the migratory birds follow the course of the galaxy while migrating at the northern hemisphere. The name bird's path in Finnish, Estonian, Latvian, Lithuanian, Bashkir, Kazakh has many variations. The Milky Way was traditionally used as a guide by pilgrims traveling to the holy site at Compostela. That's not in Spain. Yes, there's a place in Spain called Compostela, but the holy site is the field of the stars. The Milky Way was also used to refer to the pilgrimage road. Ganga of the sky, a river. River of heaven, strawway. Winter street. The galaxy is most clearly visible during the winter at the northern hemisphere, especially at high latitudes where the glow of the sun late at night can obscure it during the summer. Well, it will be especially visible if you live in the North Pole and you would have 6 months of winter. And this is what we see from art about galaxies. Spiral galaxies shooting out this axis. Okay? You either go down the black hole or you ascend the beam of light. Like on Star Trek, beam me up, Scotty. Right? And then you have the churning of the ocean of milk. This is in Hindu mythology. The Milky Way is already talked about in the churning of the ocean, Samudra Manthana, the churning of the ocean in the Vishnu Purana. The Samudra Manthana explains the origin of the elixir of life in eternal youth, Amrit. The Asuras and the Devas churned the ocean of milk via a coiling serpent over, this is all symbolic by the way, of the real thing. And this ocean of milk, there's a turtle on it. I'll talk about the turtle in the next part, inshallah. This pillar or axis creates a kind of vortex, okay? Like a spiraling. Kshira Sagara means the ocean of milk or milky ocean, okay? There's an ocean of it. The legend says that Indra, the king of Svarga is basically the celestial abode of the Devas in Hinduism, okay? Was riding on his divine elephant when he came across the sage Durvasa, who offered him a special garland given to him by an Apsara. The deity accepted the garland and placed it on the trunk sometime. The tusks are the head of the elephant in some scripture, or Airavata, his mount, as a testament to his humility. The flowers had a strong scent that attracted some bees. Right off the bat, you have mention of celestial king realm, an elephant like Al-Fil, Surah Al-Fil. You have garlands like Qala'id in the Quran. You have a trunk, which is the same thing for an elephant, and the same thing for a tree, and the same thing for a spine in English. Then you have Airavata, that's the elephant, and then you have bees as well. These are all mentioned in the Quran. The elephant, the bees, the garlands, the trunk. The churning of the ocean of milk was an extensive process. Mount Mandara was uprooted. This is a huge mountain. This is what the mountain was called. And it was used as the churning rod, and Vasuki Anaga is like a serpent being. It just backwards as Gan or Jan, who resided on Shiva's neck, became the churning rope after being promised that he would get his share. Vishnu flew upon his mount Garuda, which is a bird, revived them all, and placed Mandara on his mount and carried it towards its destination, the midst of the ocean. Vasuki coiled himself around Mandara. Vishnu counseled the Devas to tug from the head of the serpent and the Asuras the tail. Vishnu, in the form of his Kurma avatar, the turtle. That's the turtle, like how they say the cosmos, the island, Turtle Island. Mecca is an island as well. I even showed that in part 4. Came to the rescue and supported the mountain on his shell. Despite this, the Devas and the Asuras pulled back and forth on the snake's body alternately, causing the mountain to rotate, which in turn churned the ocean. Churning. What is churned except milk? That's why they have the story as the churning of milk. Okay. Some of the symbols in here are a horse, a cow, a fire, a moon, kind of a shell, an elephant, a tree, a bow, a snake coiling, a pillar, an ocean of milk. It's like they took all the same symbols and they just gave them Indian kind of aesthetic. That's it. Finally, the heavenly nectar of immortality. This word for nectar is in the Quran. It's actually the word that's used for the most famous biography publication of the Prophet's life from Hadith, called the sealed nectar. Okay? From paradise. described in paradise in the Quran, the sealed nectar. Amrit gives you eternal youth. Al-Makhad, the pains of childbirth. If it was the pains of childbirth, what is that? That's not a physical thing. It doesn't work in Arabic. Makhad is basically, when you look at this word, the root for it, makhada, to churn, i.e. milk, to shake violently, like a whirlpool. To be in labor, makhida, this is makhada. Churned, mamkhud, buttermilk, makhid, makhad, labor pains. But these are the labor pains of the womb of the earth. Okay? That's why she's saying, oh, woe unto me. I wish I had died before this. She's saying that, not because she's just going through labor. I know we can understand it to be like that as well. But Allah doesn't need to tell people things from the unseen about things you already know. We know that childbirth is very difficult. Okay? Al-Makhad. This is a higher level of understanding. Mim Khuda, the churning of the Milky Way, the sea of milk. A spiraling whirlpool of milk at the center of the world. We are in it. We are actually in this galaxy. To bear, produce, bring forth, effect, bring about something. The meeting resulted in 2 resolutions to be churned. You can see what it really boils down to. Then you have Al-Ayman. Al-Ayman, Al-Maymana, Al-Yamin, Al-Ayman. So Al-Yamin is treated as the right hand. It's basically south. It's contrasted with Shimal. Shimal means north. Yamin is the Arabic word in the Quran for south. The south. إذ يتلقى. Look at these ones here. When they receive the mutalaqiyan, the 2 receivers, like angels, about the yamin and about the shimal. Qa'id, seated. They're not on your shoulders, guys. You don't have to look at your shoulders after salat. These are seated on the south, the yamin, related to iman. The shimal, seated. Okay? They observe the cosmos. They're like angels. Jibreel and Mikal. The companions of the right. What are the companions of the right? What are Ashab al-Yamin? Well, they are in Sidrin, Makhdud, wa Talhin, Mandud, wa Dhillin. Dhillin is related to the word for canopy, like the canopy of the heavens. Wa Ma'in, Maskoob, wa Fakihatin, Kathiratin. Nothing is prevented there. Nothing is forbidden, nothing is limited. And everything, they're on furnishings raised, levitated. We have produced all of these in another creation. Inna. Is it talking about virgins? Uruban, Atraban, li ashab al-yamin, from the awwaleen, thullatan, from the akhirin. And ashab al-shimal, where are they? They're in scorching fire, boiling water. Opposite direction. We go into this one. If he was the companions of the Yamin, salamun to you from the Ashab al-Yamin. Clearly the angels fit this category as well, right? Ashab is general, just means resident. Except the companions of the Yamin, who? Every nafsad by what it has earned, rahinatun, except the Ashab al-Yamin, in jannatin, gardens, asking each other, inquiring about each other about the criminals. What salakakum? what inserted you in Saqar? They're literally inserted there, eh? They say, well, we were not of the ones who were the Musallin. Just watch my part 7 on Salat, live stream 7. And then we have Maymana. Maymana is so interesting to me because Maymana is starboard. That's basically the part of a ship, the right side of a ship, and the left side of a ship is called the port side. So the port side is actually red, and the starboard side is actually green. What do you know? The colors of the aurora, the colors related to heaven, Jannah and hell, right? Hell is like fire, right? Redness. Then you have green, which is delight, gardens, trees, fruits, growth. It's a very pleasing color. Maymana also means the right wing of an army as well. When you look at how it's used, al-Maymana, mentioned twice in the same verse. Then it's mentioned 90, verse 90. Who are the companions of the Maymana? The one who was from the ones who believed, that enjoined upon each other the patience, the endurance, and the marhama, related to compassion, rahima. Those are ashab al-star, Maymana. So it's kind of like we're on a ship, or it's like we're in an army of sorts, right? When it says, who are the companions of the Maymana? The reason I'm saying this is because al-Yamin is a direction. It's a elevated direction. Just like, you have a-Shimal is an elevated direction. Just in our plane, it's two-dimensional. But on the other planes, it's other dimensions. ما أصحاب الميمنة وأصحاب المشأمة ما أصحاب مشأمة سابقون سابقون أولئك مقربون. Jannat al-Na'im. Okay. When we talk about Ayman, they put this as right, but you already told me that Yamin is right. Ayman is right. Rights, souths. What they possess of their Ayman. Ayman is on your physical body, your right side of your body. Okay? Within your oaths. Aymana. Ayman is lucky, blessed. That's why Yemen is south. Yemen, Yemeni, Yamin. They just named the Middle East after what the entire cosmos is, because they wanted to reduce everything down to the Middle East after the last reset. Yamin, Yemen, oath. South. Yemen is the southernmost Arab country. And of course, Sham. Sham is Shimad, north. That's Syria, Lebanon. That's Sham, Syria, the northernmost Arab country. Yumna. Ayman. Ayman is blessed. Maimuna. Lucky. It's more like fortunate. Something that's fortunate. And we're going to talk to you about the fortunate isles. But this is somewhere where Musa was. Al-Ayman. Al-Ayman. Ayman. Not Ayman, Ayman. O children of Israel, we delivered you from your enemy. We made you an appointment where? Janib, the side of the Tur of the fortunate. And we sent down upon you the manna was salwa. It just means blessed. It just means fortunate. Auspicious. A blessed valley. فلما أتاها نودي من شاطئ الوادي الأيمن في البقعة المباركة من الشجرة. That's a whole mouthful, and they don't actually explain anything as substantial from the Quran Arabic. Allah speaks to Musa in first person. I am your Lord of the worlds. Lucky, auspicious. Muyamman. Blessing. Lucky. Arabia was actually called Arabia Felix. Okay, Arabia Felix is basically fortunate Arabia. It doesn't have that idea now because it's a desert, but the controllers, the people that named everything after the last reset, They named everything again the same thing. That's why there's a family ruling the same land on old maps called Arabia Felix. And it would be Arabia Sa'ida. So they have, instead of Sa'ida, Saud. The Saud family runs Arabia, Saud. They're just puppets. That's all they are. This is from mythology. The Fortunate Isles, the Isles of the Blessed. And they were semi-legendary islands in the Atlantic Ocean, winterless earthly paradise inhabited by the heroes of Greek mythology. The Fortunate Isles were associated with the concept of Elysium. Ali is in there too. A utopian location. And then this is basically where you were judged if you were especially pure enough to gain entrance to the Elysian fields. It's a judgment. The air was never extreme. The rain had a little silver dew, which of itself and without labor bore all pleasant fruits to their happy dwellers, till it seemed to him that these could be no other than the Fortunate Islands, the Elysian fields. Moreover, an air that is salubrious owing to the climate and the moderate changes in the seasons prevails on the islands. The north and the east winds blow, which blow out from our part of the world, plunge into fathomless space, and owing to the distance, dissipate themselves and lose their power before they reach the islands, while the south and west winds that envelop the islands sometimes bring in their train soft and intermittent showers, but for the most part cool them with moist breezes and gently nourish the soil. Pliny the Elder adds that they abound in fruit and birds of every kind. For heroes, martyrs, believers. The Elysian fields, also known as Elysium, this is what it's connected to, the official name. It was initially separated from the Greek underworld, the realm of Hades. Only mortals related to the gods and other heroes could be admitted past the river Styx. Later, the conception of who would enter was expanded to include those chosen by the gods, the righteous and the heroic. They would remain at the Elysian fields after death to live a blessed and happy afterlife and indulge in whatever they had enjoyed in life. Elysium would also be known as the Fortunate Isles or the Isles of the Blessed, located in the Western Ocean at the end of the earth, having shady parks. To the Elysian plain, where life is easiest for men, no snow is there, nor heavy storm, nor ever rain. To be deeply stirred from joy, incorruptible. They live untouched by sorrow in the islands of the blessed along the shore of the deep swirling ocean. Happy heroes for whom the grain-giving earth bears honey-sweet fruit. Virgil's Elysium knows perpetual spring and shady groves with its own sun and lit by its own stars, solemque suum sua sidera norunt. The poet Heinrich Heine explicitly parodied Schiller's sentiment in referring to the Jewish Sabbath food Kolent as the daughter of Elysium in his poem Princess of the Sabbath. In Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, when Viola says, "My brother, he is in Elysium," she and the Elizabethan audiences at the time understood this as paradise. And then we see also in Mozart's The Magic Flute, Papageno compares being in Elysium to winning his ideal woman. Das Lebens als Weiser mich freuen und wie in Elysium sein. Enjoy life as a wise man and feel like I'm in Elysium. The Champs-Élysées in Paris are named for this. The Elysian Fields by Carlos Schwab in 1903 is a woman painted in green along a field of green with what looks like tall trees. Schiller's poem of Elysium inspired Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, the fourth movement, Ode to Joy, notably in the excerpt used in the European anthem. This is a thing that's clearly important today. And what's very interesting is, even in the video game Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the Odyssey is basically the journey, right? Elysium appears in the Fate of Atlantis DLC, and in the first part of it, the fields of Elysium, the Misthios travels to Elysium, which is ruled by members of the precursor civilization known as the Isu, which were then worshipped as the gods of the Greek pantheon. Fate of Atlantis, you're going to see, is going to come up as well, because it's pretty clear that whatever happened with Pharaoh is one of the reasons why this has become so distant from us, Aqsa from us. Valinor, in the fictional location of J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium, is the home of the immortal Valar on the continent of Aman, Yamin, Ayman, Yamin. This is what he called it, Iman. He used the name Aman mainly to mean Valinor. We know what the name Valor means, right? It means courage, bravery. Immortals are permitted to live in Valinor. Aman is known as the Undying Lands. Scholars have described the similarity of Tolkien's myth of the attempt of Numenor to capture Aman to the biblical Tower of Babel and the ancient Greek Atlantis, and the resulting destruction in both cases. Okay? So, basically, they wanted to ascend to this place, and guess what? He destroyed them. Atlanteans, Babylonians, Numenorians, Pharaonic peoples. And I already showed you Qawm Ibrahim as well. There are tall trees there that are absolutely massive in scale. They're related to the actual Tur, actually. Okay. And they're related to the sun and the moon in this story. The lamps. And what's interesting too is this is literally so interesting to me. Okay. So the world apparently was flat in the Second Age. And basically there was a section that drowned. Then the world was changed, and this Aman region that looks kind of like it's shaped like a crescent, like it envelops the world, it was detached. It was detached from the world, which became a globe apparently. And Atlantis, the star-shaped island, Numenor, drowned. The elves have to sail the straight road. They have to sail it on a ship. Sail the straight road to reach this undying land. Because they're separated from the world now. This is all symbolic. Middle Earth, Aqsa. The kingdom of Numenor grows so powerful and so arrogant. His name, the ruler of Numenor, is Ar-Pharazôn. Ar-Pharazôn. He dares to attempt an invasion of Valinor. The creator, Eru Iluvatar, responds to the call of the Valar, sinks them into the sea like Pharaoh, Pharazôn, Pharaoh, and Aman is removed beyond the reach of the men of Arda. Arda is earth in Arabic, same thing. The elves can go to Valinor because the elves are like the angels. They look exactly like them, very feminine. And that's basically how the disbelievers mistake them for females. And they can only go there via the straight road and in ships capable of passing out of the spheres. These would be of the heavens, not of the earth. So this is the fate of men and elves. Men that are killed, die in battle, they go here. Okay. So let's look at some more things here. Have you seen this thing here? Imram. Oh, I didn't mean to say Umrah. I meant to say Imram. Imram. It means a voyage. A class of old Irish tales concerning a hero's sea journey to the other world. Okay, which we'll look at. Tir na Nog and Magmel. Tir na Nog and Magmel in Irish mythology. Why is it called an Imram? Umrah. A voyage. When you make Umrah, you go to a place of Amara. that extends your life. And this actually inspired J.R.R. Tolkien to write a poem called Imram. Sounds exactly like Imran, Musa's father, Miriam's father. And the voyage of the dawn treader. The dawn is al-falaq, al-fajr. It treads the falaq to the undying lands. If you watch my short video called Remembering Mecca, you're going to see that exact scene at the very end. The elves go towards, on a sea, on a ship, where the birds go, because the birds are supposed to go there, and the cosmos splits for them, and they go to a celestial home. The old straight road, this is Tariq Mustaqim, Sirat Mustaqim, exactly the same thing. He just put it and copied it into his fantasy novel. In the world of Arda is literally in the Quran, Arda. Of the route that his elves are able to follow to reach the earthly paradise of Valinor, realm of the godlike Valar, separating at its continent of the Middle Earth from Valinor so that men can no longer reach it. But elves can set sail from the shores of Middle Earth in ships bound for Valinor. They sail into the uttermost west, following the old straight road. He just picked west because it has to be somewhere, and there is no west from a globe. It has to be an actual boundary. His early mention of the straight road as being a level bridge recalls Bifrost, the bridge between the earthly Midgard, Mecca, and the god's home of Asgard, Aqsa, Becca, in Norse mythology. He arrives in the world as a baby in a boat filled with gifts, and he departs from it in a ship burial, with the odd feature that the ship is not set on fire as in the typical Viking ritual. That's from Beowulf. Indeed, the Isle of Numenor lay closer to the Valar's earthly paradise of Valinor on the continent of Ayman, Iman, and the king Pharaoh, or Ar-Pharazôn, raised the mightiest army and fleet Numenor had ever seen. Numenor is basically Atlantis, and sailed to Valinor. The Valar called on the creator, Iluvatar, for help. When Ar-Pharazôn landed, Iluvatar destroyed his forces and sent a great wave to submerge Al-Pharazôn, Numenor, killing all but those Numenorians who remained loyal and who escaped to Middle Earth. The world was remade, and Aman was removed from the uttermost, which means Aqsa, uttermost, so that men could not sail there to threaten it. The lost road to Valinor, Círdan the shipwright, at the Grey Havens, haven is what Jannah means, still built ships in the Third Age for those elves who wish to leave Middle Earth to go to Aman. At the end of the straight road, high above the world. Oh, so I thought it was the utmost west. I guess it's high above the world in Tolkien's works. All that is left of the memory of the old straight road, or the tale of the elves able to travel by it. It's just the memory. That's why we have to remember it. When men die, they leave the world of Arda entirely, perhaps going to a heaven. The elves cannot leave the circles of the world. I thought it was a globe. Apparently it's circles of the world. According to it, there was at first an actual earthly paradise, home and realm of the Valar, as a physical part of the earth. The world became bent because of the evil implanted by Sauron, the devil, in the minds of the men of Numenor, like Pharaoh. So men could no longer sail the straight road to Valinor. So we see the Rainbow Bridge in Norse mythology, a level bridge, links Midgard and Asgard, Mecca and Becca. The level bridge imperceptibly departs from the earth at a tangent, like a slope. John Garth similarly states that while the straight road linking Valinor with Middle Earth after the Second Age mirrors Bifrost, the Valar themselves resemble the Aesir, gods of Asgard, the prophets, the messengers that were worshipped as gods. The Finnish Kalevala and Hiawatha in Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's The Song of Hiawatha both leave the world in boats, sailing off into the sky as the elves do when following the old straight road into the west. The protagonist of the first piece of Tolkien's legendarium, Arendelle, similarly sails a ship out of Arda into the sky. And so we have here Anwin, a world of delights, sounds like Aman as well. An eternal youth where disease was absent on an island, food was ever abundant. This is from Welsh mythology. Tolkien used the word Anwin, Anun meaning west, in his elvish language, Sindarin. And it referred to the blessed land of Aman, beyond the sea. That song, Beyond the Sea, that's where I'll be, the ships go sailing. This is all in our pop culture, it's all in our mythology. It's not talking about any land here. It's above, out, Aqsa from us. Magmel in Irish mythology is one of the names for the Celtic otherworld, a mythical realm achievable through death and or glory, like martyrdom, jihad. Fields of Elysium in Greek mythology and Fields of Elysium was accessible only to a select few. It is the equivalent in Irish mythology to Greek Elysium and Valhalla of the Norse. Aru is the field of reeds in Egyptian mythology. Same thing, the name for heavenly paradise. It's a field. The Egyptians believed that the soul resided in the heart, and so that each individual would undergo a weighing of the heart, kind of like the scale in the Quran. And the human heart is weighed against on a giant scale against an ostrich feather, representing the concept of the goddess Maat. All souls who successfully balanced the scales were allowed to start a long and perilous journey to Aru, where they will exist in peace and pleasure for eternity. Qualifying souls undergo a long journey and face many perils before finally reaching Aru. Once they arrive, they enter through a series of gates, like the gates of the heavens. If the deceased passed through the final gates, they would be rowed across on a boat the water to the shores of the field of reeds. Consequently, this ideal hunting and farming ground enabled qualified souls to live for eternity. More precisely, Aru was envisaged as a series of islands covered in fields of reeds. The part where Osiris later dwelt is sometimes called the field of offerings. There's offerings in the Quran as well. Aru was also residence for various deities worshipped by the deceased, because the people that attained that were often deified pretty much all the time. So that brings us to Yam Suf. Yam Suf is the Reed Sea. This is literally what Moses crosses in the Bible with the Israelites. The Red Sea is actually the Reed Sea, Yam Suf. The word for red is not in there, Edom. It's Yam Suf, kind of like Safa. So the Hebrew word Yam means sea, and the word Suf itself means reed. If the vowel is placed differently in Hebrew, Suf can mean end. The passage is the sea at the end. And of course we have the Gulf of Aqaba. Aqaba is the great attainment in the Quran in Arabic. They pass through Aqaba. It's related to the word Ya'qub as well. Okay? Same thing as Egyptian mythology. Ashihara no Nakatsukumi, the middle country of the reed beds. I'm not even joking, like it's the same exact thing in Japanese mythology. It became another word for the country or location of Japan. The world between heaven and hell. This would be the launching point towards Al-Aqsa. But interestingly that they have similar features. If you go to the Gulf of Aqaba, you're going to find that this is actually called Ilat. Ifrat's Ilat. In Arabic today. And let's go to Ireen, the Most High, the heaven, the upper world in Quran as well. It's either the Most High and Supreme places above Jannah, the Garden of Eden or Paradise in the seventh heaven closest to the throne of God, or it could be the register for the blessed or the righteous that attain these. It is understood that Ireen is the opposite of Sijjin. Sijjin is related to a sijin, a prison, a dungeon, down. Ali meaning high, lofty. Allah is Al-Ali, Al-Ali Al-Azim. That's his title, the Most High. And so we have in 7 heavens all over the world when it comes to these belief systems. Did you know that the Talmud actually names them in Judaism? And they're called Shamayim, like Sama. Ma'im is water in Hebrew. Ma is water in Arabic. Arabot, Arabia, is the seventh heaven in Hebrew, where Ophanim, Seraphim, Hayot, and the Arsh, or throne of God, are located. Arabot. Okay. Islam mentions 7 samawat, the plural of sama, heaven, sky, or celestial spheres, exactly like you see here. You see the staircase from the Kaaba, all the way up, They're spheres. The 7 heavens are not final destinations for the dead after the Day of Judgment, but distinct regions from the earth guarded by angels and inhabited by souls. Okay? So when you look at it, it's interesting, right? Each of the skies has its own qibla, or structure, which became the direction of prayer, similar to the Kaaba of the mortal world, where the qibla of the highest heaven is called Bayt al-Ma'mur. In Islam, from As-Sayuti, a Shia scholar, he describes the highest heaven Ariba, and each one has, before it, has different precious metals associated with, like gold, pearls, iron, brass, copper, silver, gold, rubies. Some concepts from the Jewish counterpart of the 7th heaven, Ariba, Arabot. It is said that this is a place composed of divine light, incomprehensible to mortal man. And Abraham is a resident there, as well as Sidrat al-Muntaha, a large enigmatic lot tree that marks the end of the 7th heaven and the utmost extremity for all of God's creatures and heavenly knowledge. Okay? In Hinduism, there's 14 worlds, like I mentioned in part 5. 7 are upper worlds, 7 are lower worlds. In the Quran, you have Sab'a samawat, firmaments, and you have as-samawat as-sab'a, as-sibi'i, the 7. So the idea is the same thing that's above, you have similar below you as well. All serves Allah. Iri, viri, iri. What this is talking about is the Slavic mythology for where birds fly for the winter, a mythical place souls go after death, identified with paradise. Spring is believed to have arrived on earth from this place. And so initially the early Slavs believed in only one Virei, connected to the only deity known as Rod, which means basically delivering or birthing. It was apparently located far away beyond the sea. That's where I'll be. That's where I'll be at the end of the Milky Way, yet again. The keys to the other worlds, there are keys to the heavens, keys to the unseen that Allah has. It was often imagined as a garden beyond an iron gate that barred the living from entering, located in the crown of the cosmic tree, whereas the branches were said to be nested by the birds in a nest, who were usually identified as human souls. Beyond the sea, where the path lies, the straight path through water, in particularly through a whirlpool. So they're sucked up, in a sense, like a whirlpool above, a whirlpool below. Rai is the Slavic word for paradise. Rai is in conjunction with the Persian rei, wealth, happiness. It can mean spring in Greek, distant in Sanskrit, and water in Proto-Indo-European. One virei for the birds was located in the heavens, which is simply another version of the original myth, and another underground one for the snakes and the dragons, like we mentioned in the last video, chapter 5, or part 5. That brings us to Valhalla, the hall of the slain, the hall of the martyrs. And when you look at it, it's interesting. Half of those who die in combat enter Valhalla. The other go to Folkvanger, which is a similar place. The masses of those killed in combat, known as Einherjar, along with the various legendary Germanic heroes and kings, live in Valhalla until Ragnarok, the end of the world, the last war, when they will march out of its many doors to fight in aid of Odin against the Jötnar, the giants. Musa fought giants in the Quran, and we're going to talk about Ragnarok in the very last installment of this series, inshallah. The masculine noun, valor, the slain. I mean, we use the same type of word in English. Valor, courageous, brave, honorable, the valiant, the knights. The feminine noun, hol. The Valhalla was an attempt to clarify the grammatical gender of the word. Valor, the slain, slaughter, carnage, murder, bloodbath, battlefield. That's where they're taken from. The Valkyries, who are winged beings, kind of like angels, they take the souls lightly and they say, Salamun, you come into Valhalla. You go into paradise. Odin states that the goat Heidrun and the hart Eiktirnir stand on top of Valhalla and graze on the branches of the tree Leiradr. Heidrun, its udder produces vats of mead, which is a type of like wine or made from honey. Honey, med in Slavic means honey. A liquor beyond compare. Eiktirnir's antlers drip liquid into the spring Fergelmir, from which flows forth all waters. So are these the horns perhaps? Al-Qarnayn, they come from above. Dhul Qarnayn, the bearer of the horns. Valhalla as shining and golden, and it rises peacefully as seen from afar. It's above. Okay? Peacefully, salaman. In chapter 34, the tree Glacier is stated as located in front of the doors of Valhalla. The tree is described as having foliage of red gold and being the most beautiful tree among both gods and men. Is this Sidrat al-Muntaha in a different name as well? Perhaps. Alright, so let's move on. Almost done here. In Irish mythology, we have Tir na Nog, the land of the young, the land of youth, the Celtic otherworld. Tir Terngira, my Irish is really bad, guys. The land of promise, the promised land. Wa'adna, Allah has promised Jannah to Bani Israel. He's promised it to the believers. Tir, Tuin, land under the wave. What wave? The cosmic wave? Magmal, plain of delight, delightful plain. Multicolored place, isle of apple trees, fruit trees basically. Tir na Nog is depicted as an island paradise and supernatural realm of everlasting youth, beauty, health, abundance, and joy. Its inhabitants are described as Tuatha De Danann, the warriors of Tuatha De. Again, warriors. The gods of pre-Christian Ireland who engage in poetry, music, entertainment, and the feast of Goibna, which grants immortality to the participants, kind of like Amrit in Hinduism. They reach it by entering burial mounds or caves, kind of like the Kahf, by journeying through a mist, by going underwater, or by traveling across the sea for 3 days on an enchanted boat or Manannan's horse, kind of like Buraq. We have the same type of ideas, right? The path across the sea is called Magmel, the plain of honey. It is the golden path made by the sun on the ocean and to travel far over the green meadows of the waters where the horses of Lear have their pasture. The golden path made by the sun. It's like the solar corona, brought to you by Sola Qur'ana. There's a enormous tree or grove of 9 hazels, or a lady's bower. See the word bower there? Arsh, arish, where bloom was on every bough, and the air heavy with the sweetness of orchards. Typically, an enormous tree lies at the center of the island, and birds singing beautiful music in its branches. Oisin and Name is a story about a human hero and a woman from this world that fall in love. She brings him to Tir na Nog on a magical horse that can travel over water. This is literally shown in Frozen 2, which I showed in my part 4 of the series. After spending what seems to be 3 years there, Oishen becomes homesick and wants to return to Ireland. Ireland is a green land in a sense as well. When he returns, he finds that 300 years have passed in Ireland, even though 3 years passed there. So every year there is 100 years here. And this is related to the 7 sleepers of Ephesus that are alluded to in the Quran, which is interesting because 300 years is used in that very story. You don't tell me that the mythologies reflect the Quran in some way. They had to put this knowledge somewhere openly, right? And so when we move on, Avalon is the British version of this, a place of magic where King Arthur's sword Excalibur was made, crafted, and later where Arthur was taken to recover from being gravely wounded at the Battle of Camlan. Since then, the island has become a symbol of Arthurian mythology, similar to Arthur's castle of Camelot, Qasr, castle. Certain Britain traditions have maintained that Arthur is an eternal king who had never truly died but would return as the once and true future king to save mankind. Arthur is sleeping in Avalon. There is a king in the mountain legend as well, sleeping. And basically, the same thing is said about those who are killed in Allah's way. They are not dead, they are receiving provision. Avalon has been identified as the former island of Glastonbury Tor. That's right, they call these things tours, after Arabic. And Avalon is the name of the region in that Disney movie called Strange World as well, where they were on the back of a turtle. Pomerum, the Isle of Fruit Trees, Latin pomus for fruit tree. Abali, Avalon, apple tree. That's really where it gets its name. It's named after the island of trees that bear fruit. Abalna, Aballo, Abaloni, Yabalka in Russian, Yablaka. The Isle of Fruit Trees, which men call the Fortunate Isle, Insula Pomerum Quae Fortunata Vacator, gets its name from the fact that it produces all things of itself. The field there have no need of the plows of the farmers, and all cultivation is lacking except what nature provides. Of its own accord it produces grain and grapes. Again, grapes. Apple trees, close-clipped grass, trees grown in its woods. The ground of its own accord produces everything, instead of merely grass, and the people live there 100 years or more. The Isaiah prophecy in the Bible says that there will be no need to plow the earth, it will be redone. Or they will beat their swords into plowshares. Take after the battle, Morgan the fairy takes the mortally wounded Arthur from the battlefield of Camlan to Avalon in a black boat. So she has to take him across the sea in a ship to get to this place. It's literally an island, a cosmic sea. There's a fictional letter from King Arthur to Henry II of England by in some chronicle, claiming that Arthur, having been healed of his wounds, had been made immortal by his deathless eternal nymph, Sister Morgan, in the holy island of Avalon, the sacred island, through the island's miraculous herbs. This is everywhere. Buyan, the Russian version. A mysterious island in the ocean with the ability to appear and disappear with the tide. Other legends say that the island is the source of all weather, generated there and sent forth into the world by the god Perun, the thunder god. Buyan has the mythical stone with healing and magic powers that we talked about in Mecca part 5, I believe, called Al-Latir, which is guarded by the bird Gagana and Garafana the serpent. So we have the same idea in another idea of Russian mythology called Yaponskoye Tsarstvo, the kingdom of Japan, or Oponska, kingdom of Opona. So for whatever reason, they thought the west and the east of their flat world was Aqsa. However, Allah is saying, no, that's not Aqsa. That's why they name Aqsa Alaska, Japan. Why did the Russians think Japan was the golden land, the land of Chudo, wonders, Belovodya, land of white water? Okay? It's a utopian kingdom of Russian folklore. And when you go to El Dorado, a golden city, golden kingdom, gold is described in conjunction with Jannah. A house of gold, or you ascend, right? Zukhruf, ornaments of gold, gold ornaments. The legend of the 7 cities of Cibola. You have Shambhala, Cibola, Valhalla. It never ends. El Dorado. Shambhala, the birthplace of Kalki, the next incarnation of Vishnu, who will usher in a new age, Satya Yuga, and the prophesied ruling kingdom of Maitreya, the future Buddha. Shambhala is ruled by the future Buddha Maitreya, the savior of mankind in the future. In the narrative, King Manjushtrikirti is said to have been born and ruled over a kingdom of 300 or so followers of the Mlecha religion. Word Mlecha, they are people that have incomprehensible speech, foreign barbarians. Incomprehensible speech, like the people Dhul-Qarnayn was sent to. He could barely understand them. Some of them worship the sun. Go figure. He is said to have expelled 20,000 people from his domain who clung to Surya Samadhi, solar worship, rather than convert to the Wheel of Time Buddhism, Kalachakra. Kalachakra Tantra prophesies that when the world declines into war and greed and all is lost, the 25th Kalki king, Maitreya, will emerge from Shambhala with a huge army to vanquish dark forces and usher in a worldwide golden age. Golden age, go figure. Alice A. Bailey, one of the later esoteric writers from the Theosophical Society, like Helena Blavatsky, claims Shambhala is an extra-dimensional or spiritual reality on the astral plane, a spiritual center where the governing deity of Earth, Sanat Kumara, dwells as the highest avatar of the planetary logos of Earth and is said to be an expression of the will of God. The Persian word Sham-Ibala means elevated candle. Interesting. That's Buddhism. Shangri-La, lost horizon, lost. Of Ufuq, al-Ufuq, the horizon. Ala-ala, lost horizon. Portrays Shangri-La as a mystical, harmonious valley. An enduringly happy land, isolated from the world. In the novel, the people who live in Shangri-La, Shangri-La, are almost immortal, living hundreds of years beyond the normal lifespan and only very slowly aging in appearance. Ancient Tibetan scriptures mention the existence of 7 such places, like the 7 kingdoms of gold, El Dorado. Elat, this is what we call from Elat, like the Gulf of Elat, the Gulf of Aqaba, that the Hebrews and Israelites crossed with Moses to Sinai. This is Elat, Eila, Elia. The name survived into the Roman period as Eila, adopted into Byzantine Greek as Ayla, and Arabic as Ayla. This is why later it became a settlement, an Arab settlement of an ancient city, Aqabat Ayla. Ayla, ascent. Aqaba is related to ascent, right? Aqaba, Qaba Qawsain aw Adna. Eventually shortened to Aqaba. The modern Israeli town of Eilat has the same idea in Arabic. Eilat. What is Il have to do with anything? Eilat, Ayla, Elia, Eilat. Well, if you look at Il in Ottoman Turkish, it's inherited from the word for realm. Any other person than oneself, other people, any person or persons other than one's own household, tribe, nation, strangers. A tribe or people or nation, especially a subdivision of a larger tribe called Ulus. The country of any particular tribe or ruled over by any particular man or dynasty. Israel, Il. This is what we get from it. Il, Isra. The realm of the Isra. The sacred ground of Elia. What is Elia? Elia is the old name for Jerusalem. It's called Al-Quds now because everyone understood this memory of this place, Dar es Salaam, for the Sirat al-Mustaqim leads to. That's a holy place. Salam. Then when we go to here, the capital of Elia. Iliyin. Elia. But the Arabs used Elia because they understood very well the highest heaven, Ariba. Beni Israel of the Isra. They're the Elia of the Isra. Elia is the place of the Eid. This is from a colony. It's like they're landing in space and they're making a colony called the capital of Elia, a Roman colony. Rome is all around Mars, the fields of Mars, right? They always tell us we want to go to Mars. Well, this colony is the original one. It's in Al-Aqsa. That's why this is the old name for Jerusalem. The earliest name for Jerusalem. Elia. It was the name of Elia gens, the plebeian family in Rome. Remember, Rome is the one in the Quran that is victorious. Adna al-Ardi, the nearest earth. Because really their capital is in the Aqsa al-Ardi, Aqsa al-Arla. So, Rawa, Yarwi. We see this term in the Quran to carry water, right? Like out of a well. To draw water, bring water, riwayat, or narrations or tales from memory. It's like you're drawing upon your memory, relating something. It also means rawa, yarwi, to twist or to bind something upon with rope, a twisting. Kind of like the ascending stairway, ma'arij. And guess what? Sulam, sulam, yarwi, sulam. The twisting stairway is what Jerusalem comes from. Yerusalem, Yarwi Salam, Yarwi Salam. The twisting towards Dar Salam, peace. Sulam means a ladder, a stairs, a winding staircase up the axis mundi towards Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, the true Jerusalem. That's why they had to put Al-Aqsa in this modern Jerusalem, because they know that they're trying to put, like they're trying to blend so many things in here. There's Haram al-Sharif. There's a Haram in Al-Aqsa and there's a Haram in Mecca. There's a Marwa in Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem, and there's a Marwa in Mecca. So Al-Aqsa Mosque is called Qibli Mosque, the main congregational mosque. And they have called this Jami al-Aqsa because they know very well the wider compound. Everything there is called Al-Aqsa Mosque. So really there is no Al-Aqsa Mosque. Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa is the entire plaza containing those two mosques. Okay? The furthest mosque, the entirety of the Temple Mount. Why is it called the Temple Mount? The temple is on a mount. It's mounted. Okay? The dome of the rock, Sakhra. Musa retreated to the rock in the Quran. The fountains, the gates, the four minarets, none of these buildings existed at the time the Quran was written. Silver dome, Jami al-Aqsa. Silver dome. Suquf min fidlatin. The octagonal building topped by a dome was built by Caliph Abdul Malik around the foundation stone for a myriad of political, dynastic, and religious reasons, built on local and Quranic traditions articulating the site's holiness. You get the idea. We talked about this in the earlier parts of this series. They named the mosque Templum Solemanis, distinguishing it from the Dome of the Rock, which they named Templum Domini. So there's two on that compound. It's like they're saying from one masjid to the other masjid. The masjid of the Sakhra, the masjid of the Dome of the Rock, which we already showed you is called the Navel of the Worlds, to the Masjid Al-Aqsa Mosque here. That's why this has a silver dome, the other one has a gold dome. The sun and the moon. The Dome of the Rock is apparently the world's oldest surviving work of Islamic architecture, because the real dome of the real rock is not there. Al-Aqsa Mosque, or Qibli Mosque, is the main congregational mosque prayer hall of the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. They call it Qibli Mosque. The Qibla was apparently changed here, right? What if the Qibla was always the same? It's just been a different plane of existence. Alright, so we're pretty much wrapping things up at the moment. The Well of Souls, or the cave, is underneath the Sakhra. Yeah. I think I've pretty much really, hammered you with these ideas in earlier things as well. Isra and Miraj. You can look at these articles for yourself. And I really hope you enjoyed this part. We're now 6 parts done into this series. 3 more to go, inshallah. May Allah benefit you with this, and inshallah, may He guide us to the straight path, and may we attain the salvation that the Quran promises the believers in the next life, and see the conquest of Mecca during the hour. With that, Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace.